recording.
And we are live. Tell your friends you're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Colin.
And I'm Nathan.
We have another very special episode. We have the 1996 movie From Dusk Till Dawn. Nathan, do you have a history of the movie From Dusk Till Dawn?
This was another night shift rental.
Yeah.
Movies I got at the, I don't know, Blockbuster or whatever version of that they had in Indiana at the time. And
Was it
would
Video
watch.
Stop? Was that one of them?
I think so, yeah.
There's one with a stop, I remember.
There was one, yeah, there was one on like, what was that, the north end of town that was pretty big. And then there was one downtown, which I kind of moved out of town by the time that one opened. Neither one of them are open now,
No.
but because nobody does that anymore.
No. I think we have a bunch of family videos here, and I don't know how they still exist. So,
Oh, they're laundering fentanyl money.
yeah. Well, it's like, we used to have,
Say.
we used to have several blockbusters here, even a Hollywood Video, which that was like even like rare back when the video stores were common, and then family videos like just kind of popped up. I mean, I guess it's been around, but like ever since Blockbuster and the Hollywood Video went under, like they've just been just like these family videos just keep popping up, and like how do these still exist? And it seemed like what replaced them all was like streaming, of course, but then at least for like hard rental stuff, it was the red boxes.
Yeah.
But now everybody's just getting out of like physical media, so then now that thing just won't even exist at all anymore. So.
Yeah, I think they used to have like 5 red boxes down at our Kroger, and now they got one.
Yeah.
And then they had the outdoor red boxes, which were really weird because they had the sun shield on them that you would lift up, and of course those froze in the winter and never worked. But yeah, this was a movie I would rent, and I rented and watched on, the night shift or post night shift.
Do you remember any of the promotional material? Or was just like, that's a good box art.
I knew who Quentin Tarantino was.
Okay.
I knew George Clooney was the guy on the doctor that everyone loved on the TV show.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, this is interesting. I didn't know Quentin Tarantino was an actor, and I didn't know that George Clooney was doing like what I thought initially from like was a bank robbery type movie.
Yeah.
Which it kind of is, or it's
Yeah, it
just
is.
a film for about half of it. And that's all I knew. And I watched the first 10 minutes of it, and I was like, well, I know I'm gonna love this movie. It's like, this is nuts. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw this in a rental or probably on. Well, I think I saw it several times on cable, which has a pretty significant. I think is significantly different from the standard release.
Yeah, I think so. I think they probably edited a few things.
I don't. Well, there's one thing I'm like, I don't know if it exists or not. There's one thing I'm pretty sure they changed this for the cable edit, and I tried to find. Well, somebody's got to have a shot of this, and like I could not find it on the internet, so I just could be me making it up. But we'll talk about it when we get there. It came out January 19th, 1996, so this might be one of the best January movie ever released.
Yeah, probably is. Did you put it that way? Yeah, I can't think of a better one.
I think I've said this several times, but January is a movie where like they just dump movies they don't have any faith in, or it's kind of like Oscar buzzworthy stuff kind of comes in, and kind of like that's what you. It's like, oh, there's that like quaint historical drama like this that's will fill the void of quality for the month of January as they release complete garbage.
Yeah. This is where movies go to die.
And then the other kind of month like that is August, where it's like they're not sent to die. They're just like, well, we spent a lot of money on this movie. We have no idea if people like it. So it's like August is a movie of very mixed quality movie. So, so yeah, director is Robert Rodriguez, who's coming off of Desperado, which was a big hit.
Yeah.
And this is like the super group of indie of
Yeah.
indies. Yeah, because like 1990s independent film was a hell of a thing. um, like it probably exists now, it just doesn't seem as prestigious to like. I mean, it's some ways it's probably harder to break through. In some ways, it's just like, well, we got our movie on streaming and we got a check, so who cares? So,
Yeah.
it's like hard.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's as much love in it, and it's not stuff like this. It's a lot more like emotional stuff now, I think.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's fine if that's what you want. I see movies as a form of escapism, not to like, let's dissect the mental illness we may or may not have. This isn't fun. Who wants this?
I mean, they did that in '90s independent movies too, but like they're
I don't remember them.
like any movie,
Yeah.
where like somebody just had like they dressed quirky and then but like they were just presented as weird people. There was no science behind it. It's like, oh, they have this problem and like they're dealing with it. They're just like, they're just weird, I guess.
Yeah. There were just quirky people. It was, like, what was that movie from the 90s, like Mystic Pizza, that had like every grunge band did a cameo? It was like, yeah, those were the 90s feeling movies I think of. It's like Star-Crossed Lovers, and the lead singer from Pearl Jam shows up and delivers some wisdom and then walks off the set. It's like, oh, okay.
I mean, I'm sure there's way more, but like I remember basically the four horsemen of the independent scene in the '90s was like, it was Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, Kevin Smith, and probably like Richard Linklater.
Yeah.
There's a bunch more.
Those are the ones we would watch at least.
I mean, those are the guys that prove that like you can make a movie for practically nothing, and then like as long as you get it in front of the right pair of eyes, they can put it in front of the rest of the country.
Yeah, and people will watch it too.
Yeah. Whereas nowadays, like it just doesn't happen like that unless you're committed to making like a horror movie.
Right. Yeah, horror movies seem to have been taking a victory lap lately. Until you watch some of them and you realize, wow, okay, this is like not as bad as other things, but that's what it's got going for it.
But for like, it's like, oh, we're making a movie for thousands of dollars and then we're turning around and making millions of dollars. Like that's your Paranormal Activities. Like that's the latest kind of like
that's Blair Witch stuff.
I mean, that's even bigger than Blair Witch.
Paranormal Activity made more money than Blair Witch?
I think so, maybe.
Probably cumulatively, yeah, because they've done like 5 of those.
Yeah, they've done more because there's only been 2. Oh wait, no, there's 3 Blair Witch things, right?
There's only the original one that was that one.
No, there's original one, then there's like Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows or stuff, which was
that was like a regular movie, yeah.
Yeah, but then there was like a remake Blair Witch they did like 10 years ago or something like that, just called Blair Witch.
Yeah, it was like her brother was the character.
Yeah, something like that.
And they tried to make it was like a combination of a found footage and an actual movie.
Yeah, or something.
I think I watched it once just for nostalgia because I remember enjoying the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, this you got Clooney's writing. It's based on a story by Robert Kurtzman, who was like, wait, that's a name I know, right? Like that's a guy that I looked up his stuff, and it's like he's like a Sam Raimi orbit guy. He does a lot of B movie stuff, but there's nothing like this. Might be the biggest thing he's associated with. Who I was thinking of was Robert Kirkman, who's the Walking Dead guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see how. Okay. This is where it all started.
But this is Robert Kurtzman, who just seems to be like a standard B movie guy who had a career doing B movie stuff.
Basically, a special effects guy.
Yeah. Which I guess, that's which that'll have a through line throughout this movie too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They do every form of special effect in this movie.
Well, including the people they hire as actors, who are known for being special effects makeup artists.
Yeah.
So yeah, Robert Rodriguez is directing. He's coming off of Desperado. He's known for making
another great movie.
Yeah, which he's basically known for making like the most bang for your buck movies.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which he got famous for, like, he's a dude from Texas, but of course he got famous for shooting a movie called El Mariachi, which he shot in Mexico because they basically like had family in Mexico, and they basically like, it was kind of like a sleepy town. It was like, do you want to shoot a movie here? And they basically just let him have an entire town as a playground, and
Yeah.
he had like $7,000, and they made an action movie. But it's not that, if you watch it now, it's nothing like, it's nothing great. But when you realize like, oh, they only had $7,000, like, holy shit, you made a movie, man.
Yeah, it's actually kind of amazing when for what it is.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, this was really cool. But now Desperado, like the remake of it, is like, that's astounding. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, even there, I think they only had like $3 million, and it's like, it's an amazing action movie for $3
Yeah, it is. Hey,
Uh,
you see him? I don't know him. Just start shooting. It's like, this is easy, guys. Yeah.
yeah, one of the best uses of Danny Trejo,
Yes.
like Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek just instantly become stars, and they were like nobodies. So yeah, of course, like you'd say, yeah, it's a no-brainer. Um, I think one of the funniest trivia's from that movie is that one of the reasons they or one of the ways they save money on it is that they only had like 3 stunt guys, and so if you watch all the stunt scenes, it's like a lot of guys wearing bandanas and stuff because it's all basically the same stunt man in a different costume.
That's interesting.
Here they got a bit more money, and of course they got Quentin Tarantino behind it. I don't know if everyone's having fun. I don't know why. I don't know who insisted Quentin Tarantino act in this movie, but it's fine. It's like, hey, let's have you deliver your dialogue.
No, it works. I mean, it's some of the best. I mean, it's one of my favorite Quentin Tarantino movies where it's like, well, this is the longest cameo he's ever done.
And then like this must be the origin of the Quentin Tarantino feet stuff, because that's like half his character in this movie.
Yeah, I think that's
because people talk about it whenever he releases a movie and there's like a shot of feet, and it's like, well, clearly, Quentin Tarantino's a foot fetishist. And then they make it sound like he's trying to keep it a secret or something. You watch this movie, it's like, oh, this is where all that comes from. It's like, it seems pretty like on the nose.
yeah.
Similar talk.
I don't know with him if he's just thumbing his nose at people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all I don't get feet stuff.
Yeah.
It's for me, sex is like real meat and potatoes. I like the things that everyone likes. I don't need like, because feet is what touches the ground, and it's like, I don't want that near my face. So have fun with that.
Well, I don't even know if he does, but
Yeah, like I said,
if they're in his face, he can't see all of them. So yeah.
I think Quentin Tarantino's a really smart guy that loves to mess with the dumb press.
Yeah.
I think he has fun doing it.
Yeah, what else?
Well, cinematographer.
Yeah. I guess the other like kind of like all-star cast of independent stuff. There's a movie called 4 Rooms, which I think Robert Rodriguez directs a segment, Quentin Tarantino directs a segment, and 2 other people direct a segment. I don't think any of them was Kevin Smith, even though they were like, they all knew each other and like kind of talked to each other then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like Robert Rodriguez segments where like some kids find dead bodies in like the mattress, and it's like it's at the hotel, and then like, oh, who's it? Who's the guy that robs who's like him and his wife are robbing the restaurant in Pulp Fiction, and he's the main guy in Reservoir Dogs. Is it Tim Roth or no? Yeah, Tim Roth. Yeah.
Yeah, is it Tim Roth? Yeah.
Yeah, he's the bellhop, and so he like goes between these 4 different short stories of the movie 4 Rooms. And then there's a great one. The Tarantino one's probably the best one because there's like this, almost like like Alfred Hitchcock's Presents, or even The Twilight Zone, if you want to, where it's like this weird kind of like everyone's having this bet about like having this poker game, and if they lose, then somebody has to like chop somebody's thumb off, and they have to like they have to get an outside person to do it because they can't trust themselves to do it, and so they get Tim Roth to like do it, and so like and it's like Bruce Willis too. He's in the and it, like they makes the bet. He loses the bet, chops the guy's thumb off, and then just walks out there with a handful of money. Oh, it's about how if he swears that he can light a Zippo lighter on the first thing every time. And
Oh,
it's just this entire build up like 15 minutes of dialogue, and then they get right up to it and doesn't go off, cuts off the guy's thumb, and then they're screaming, and he just like walks out with money. So, but yeah, 90s independent movie stuff was a kind of a one-time plays. Like I said, it still probably exists, but it's not like the rock star personality stuff that, that's what it was back then. It's like, who's this person? Let's get the press behind them. Let's figure out who they are. What's their next movie? Where it's like, I don't know where, and I don't even know what you consider independent cinema anymore, because it's like some things. It's like just consider independent because they didn't have a lot of money. But it's like that new,
well, and also Miramax was becoming a force, a clearinghouse for this kind of stuff. So they knew what to do right away. They knew how to handle it.
yeah,
And that was kind of their thing. And also, too, never forget about the 90s, is that was the last decade. Because that was the last decade that had a distinct musical sound, had a distinct movie time.
yeah.
Everything since the 90s has been a smear. And there's different reasons. People say it's the pace of technology has advanced, or it's, our society has devolved into stupidity. I mean, whatever you want to believe. But the 90s was the last specific decade. And it all ended on September 11th, 2001. That's when everything changed.
Yeah.
And,
is that and the iPhone.
well, yeah, that too. But yeah, so it was like, yeah, I think that's what, like, the 90s was like, that was the time of like the X-Files, and
Yeah.
that's when paranoia was a hobby instead of a religion like it is now. So yeah.
Yeah. It's I don't know. There's probably a book, I forget, because there's a term called the monoculture, which that's why you used to have distinct decades, because everybody was just actually way more of a sheep back then than they are now. But everyone thinks nowadays everybody thinks the same way, when it's actually like
people kind of have their own information sources now, their own distinct personalities. I mean, I remember you used to be able, as a teenager, I did not have the internet. The internet didn't exist as a thing that was accessible to me till I was in my 20s. I mean, it was around, but I wasn't paying for it, and you could actually lie to people and just tell them, it's like, yeah, Hitler's still alive, and President Eisenhower confirmed it in a speech he gave, and you could show them like one segment of a book, and you could start like a whole religion. Now people just get on their phone and like, yeah, you're full of shit, man. It's or people get on their phone and believe complete nonsense. It's like, yeah, somebody said this, so it's true.
Yeah, or you could spread that lie, but because like the vector which it's delivered, it can only go so far, whereas nowadays it can go the full distance if the lie is good enough.
And it becomes a game of like Chinese phone, where it's like everyone adds their own little piece to it as it goes along. But now it's not happening like in a group of 500 people. It's like 50,000 people an hour doing this stuff.
But like Francis Ford Coppola is about to put out, an independent movie that costs like $200 million. So it's like
he basically mortgaged his entire life to make this movie. From what I understand, I don't know if those stories are true.
As far as I know, he's like a fucking billionaire from his wine thing. So I don't know.
Well, I heard he sold all his property to make this movie. So
okay.
So I guess there's no more Coppola wine if this doesn't work out. So everyone get out there.
I mean, property or business, because those are separate things.
I think from what I heard, everything was put up to raise money for this. Now, I don't know if it's true. Sounds cool.
Yeah.
Gives the movie like an urgency.
Yeah. You better go see this mess.
Yeah. This is the guy who made Apocalypse Now, remember?
Yeah, and there's an entire documentary about like difficult that movie is to make. So if this is difficult, it's got to be good, right?
I didn't hear that. What's his name? The main character, main actor.
Adam Driver.
Yeah, Adam Driver didn't have a heart attack in the middle of shooting it, and they didn't burn down the Philippines by mistake while they were making it.
So yeah, this cinematographer is Guillermo Navarro, who is basically like a Guillermo del Toro guy.
Yeah.
He even won an Oscar for Pan's Labyrinth for best cinematography. So yeah, he's a really good cinematographer.
Well, I also worked with. I did Jackie Brown.
Okay.
A lot of movies you've heard of. He's been the cinematographer on from this group of people.
Yeah. Spawn.
That's fun.
Oh, The Long Kiss Goodnight. Oh, we're gonna get to that at some point.
That's got one of my favorite lines in it.
He also worked on Four Rooms. So yeah, this was a tight knit group at the time. I mean, they kind of came back and did this with the Sin City stuff, which that was neat because that was basically Robert Rodriguez creating his own film effects studio and making a blockbuster movie like out of like a like barn in his backyard that's converted into a green screen room.
Yeah, the next attempt at rotoscoping a comic book. It wasn't that; it was way more sophisticated, but it was also kind of reminded me of it.
How they did it was like actually like way more simple than what you think it is, because there's a lot of things. There's stuff called like an alpha channel, which basically takes your images, and it's like sort of the black and white images that the camera collects, and you can pull those out as just black and white images and do really neat stuff with it. And they kind of just basically filmed it in color digital and pulled all this stuff out in a way that made it look stylish. So it was actually way more simple because they were actually trying to do more things, and you'll see like their successes in the Spy Kids movies, because if you look at the special effects in those movies, they are terrible, but it's for kids, so who cares?
Yeah. Those kids movies, he did like 4 of those things. And it's like it says, yeah, Robert Rodriguez needs money again. Or needs to build up Hollywood cred so he can make something bizarre.
Yeah. And he like, oh, what was it? Yeah, I mean, he seemed like because I read he has a great autobiography called Rebel Without a Crew. Because like when he did El Mariachi, yeah, he was the director, the writer, director of photography. He was everything.
He didn't star in the movie.
No. Well, someone has to be behind the camera.
Yeah, someone actually has to operate the camera.
And like made money, and like he had a family at the time. He had like a family, like 3 kids, was still in college, and wow. I think, or something like that. I'm not sure, but he was making money by doing like college like medical tests.
Oh, okay.
So especially like you got a lot of money for doing like biopsy tests where like they like take a piece of skin and do stuff with it. You said like that was like $8,000 a pop. So basically like one of those biopsy tests would paid for El Mariachi. And what the thing he did that actually saved a ton of money is because like, well, really the king of everything is putting things on film, which that's the most expensive part of filming at the time. It's just putting on, because even like Kevin Smith, like black and white film at the time was cheaper, but he still had to like put like $40,000 in credit cards just to get film.
Yeah.
But here what Robert Rodriguez did is that he shot it on tape, edited it, 2 VCRs, tape to tape editing, put it in a film contest, won it, and then got noticed by Miramax. Or maybe, yeah, I think it was Miramax. It was either that or one of the Harveys, because one Harvey runs the Miramax, the other one ran Dimension Films, which is usually where they put out horror movies and sci-fi stuff.
That was the Harvey that isn't in prison.
Yes,
right?
Yeah. That's the quote-unquote good Harvey. By comparison, I guess. I'm not sure.
I mean, he's never been indicted or for doing like horrible sex pest stuff, at least that I know of.
Yeah, everything I heard about him made it sound like he was a quiet person. So
yeah.
Whereas Harvey Weinstein was a very
He was a
boisterous
loud
character.
person.
Yes.
He liked to be heard and paid attention to, and he had huge appetites.
Bob Weinstein, that's his brother.
Bob and Harvey, they just sound like innocent guys. Look, it's Bob and Harvey until one of them screams your head off and or tries to rape you, depending on what's going on that day.
And so like then what Robert Rodriguez did was like when he got their eyes, like, oh, can you pay for the the tape to film transfer, which was like 32 grand that he didn't have, and so like they're like, sure, yeah. So now he can put it on film and bring it to other film festivals, and that's how he basically like got noticed in the business.
Oh, okay.
Which that's fun and makes it seem like, yeah, I should do that. And there's like, that's not even an avenue nowadays.
I like the stories where people win. Can't replicate that success, but I do like the stories.
No. Yeah. That's why every self-help book where someone's like successful is trying to tell you something is always worthless, because once somebody figures out how to be successful, that avenue is closed off to the rest of the world. Or it's a lie to begin with, and the successful thing is you buying it.
Yeah, this is, you don't want to know how I make him successful. You bought this book. You want to know why I'm at the place I'm at in life or whatever? Because I either knew someone or it was a lot of luck. It's one of the two. And you can't reproduce this.
Cast is Harvey Keitel, George Clooney, and Juliette Lewis. And other people, yeah, we'll get to it, but like that's how they list it in Internet Movie Database, which I guess at the time probably Harvey Keitel might be the biggest actor in this movie, but I'm not sure.
Probably, yeah, because Harvey Keitel's been around a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never seen Bad Lieutenant, but I've never seen either Bad Lieutenant.
Oh, they're both great.
Does Porter Call New Orleans, does that have any relation to the other Bad Lieutenant, or is they just the same name?
Just corrupt movies about a corrupt cop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I forget. I think it's Abel Ferrara who directed that movie.
Yeah.
And he has an amazing quote about like movies at the time. He's also another independent guy. He's more like 80s independent guy, but still. Like he has an amazing quote about like, especially about independent cinema. He says like, those are the true documentaries, because you can't pay to build a set. You can't pay to do anything. You're just putting a camera up somewhere and shooting it, and whatever's happening at that time, like that's the place of what it is. Yeah, if you're shooting independent cinema, you're not doing, unless you're shooting like a Western or something, you're not shooting like a historical drama. No, it's the time and place in which it exists. So yeah, I guess I'll get into it from my other notes. Oh, my notes are all weird. All right, yeah. So yeah, we get the Dimension Film banner. I actually got both. Miramax popped up, and then Dimension Film banner popped up. But I think the Miramax one is the modern one, which I don't know what they're doing with Miramax nowadays, because Disney owns it. Because at some point, the Weinstein sold off Miramax to Disney, and then they created the Weinstein Company, which I'm pretty sure doesn't exist anymore, but I actually have no idea.
Yeah, I don't think you can operate under that name anymore. It carries a little weight that you don't want.
I don't know who released Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That's a good question. Let's find out.
Because all his movies have either been Miramax or Weinstein Company. I'm pretty sure that they were defunct by then or not being used, but maybe not.
I don't know. It depends on. Yeah, that's a weird. Of course, there's so many. Can we just see like filmography, please?
Who released?
Sony Pictures.
Okay.
Yep, Sony Pictures did that.
Did you read the book on that?
No.
So he wrote like a novel version of it, like Quentin Tarantino did, and he made like significant changes to it to like add more stuff to it.
Really?
Yeah, I hear it's pretty interesting. Also, I hear he has a podcast now too, which I also hear is really good. I just never spent the time to actually listen to it because I'm pretty sure it's like I want to like Quentin Tarantino. I'm pretty sure the more I listen to him, the more I wouldn't like.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. It's one of those things like don't know your heroes. It's like, well, I like his movies, and I like the occasional funny stuff I hear he says when he goes on other people's podcasts. But yeah, I don't really want to like. It's one of those things you like try to avoid the people you like.
Yeah,
Because I've gotten close a few times to people I like, specifically like writers and stuff, and then I found out like, oh, you're cool, but I hate your friends, and you're just a weirdo too in a way. So it's like I'm just gonna read your books. Yeah, I don't want to know about you. Because we had like direct like communication, not just like this wasn't me just observing him. It's like, oh boy, okay. Either I'm not smart enough or you're weird. I don't know which. Probably a combination of both, but yeah, this isn't working out.
So yeah, we open on cars driving through like a sun blasted country road. A Texas Ranger, Earl McGraw, played by Michael Parks.
Yes.
Which I don't know if Michael Parks had a thing before this. This is what Quentin Tarantino was famous at this time for, grabbing obscure kind of B movie actors and giving them like really meaty like dialogue, and then people are like, oh, I guess we should actually hire this guy because he's good. So I think Michael Parks was kind of one of those, although he kind of like his biggest role ended up being like in Red State with Kevin Smith, but like
Yeah, that's what he was best known for.
yeah, I mean that was
By people like all kind of our age.
yeah, because a lot of Michael Parks stuff is like he plays bit parts, but I don't know if he has like bigger parts in smaller B movie stuff. So, but yeah, this is what I know him for. I mean, he plays the same character in Kill Bill and in what's the other one he was in?
What was the? He was in Grindhouse.
Oh yeah, we're at Grindhouse.
I think he played Texas Ranger in that.
I think it's the same character. Yeah, I think it's literally. Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to talk with. Robert Rodriguez does the Sin City stuff, and then eventually they just came together and made Grindhouse the movie, which is essentially what this was like kind of a project for, to start doing movies like these, and they released Grindhouse, which if you don't know what Grindhouse is, like it was a presentation of two B movies, one done by Robert Rodriguez, one done by Quentin Tarantino, and I don't even know if like how they present it nowadays. It must just be split up into the two different movies now, right?
I think so. I remember I saw it in the theater.
I went to it was like it was like a 4-hour movie.
Yeah, I was drunk by the end.
I went to a 10 o'clock showing of it.
Oh,
walked out of theater at
1
2, yeah. And then there were some, and they even had like an intermission in between where they had like fake commercials of like other Grindhouse movies, which the Hobo with a Shotgun got turned into a real movie.
Yes.
And then Thanksgiving got turned into a real movie. And was there one? Machete got turned into two movies. Yeah. So, yeah, there is a whole Grindhouse universe out there, which is weird that like, like you would think, like it's almost a cop out nowadays, or like they're selling out where you have to create a meta universe so you can have like all these movies have a connection. You're just trying to get money out of people with all the Marvel stuff. But like you look at all these independent guys, they're all trying to like connect all their movies together. So you have to buy them.
This is a thing now.
But it just seems like, at this time, it's like the indie guys are doing this. Where nowadays, if indie guys were doing this, you'd think like, oh Jesus, like would make art, not money. It's like no. Earl, Marco Parks here. Earl walks into a gas station. Well, it's like a gas station liquor store, or was there gas pumps out front? No, I'm not sure.
Yeah, there was gas pumps.
Okay.
I think.
Because it's like specifically a liquor store, but there are gas pumps out front, so it's whatever you need it to be. you know, sometimes it seems like the gas pumps are completely separate from whatever store it's connected to. You ever seen that before? Where it's like,
Yeah, I've seen those.
where it's like it's a gas. There's gas pumps out front, but then the store is like, it's not like your standard gas station. It's almost like some weird like restaurant slash like mechanic shop or something like that.
Yeah, there's like a restaurant side, a gas pump side, but it's not quite big enough to be one of those like crazy truck stops,
Yeah,
but it is big enough to be unusual.
yeah.
All the employees seem surly, and some of them are on work. Okay. And you can buy like butterfly knives and stuff, a variety of strange materials.
Have you ever driven through one of the states where like you're not allowed to pump your own gas?
Last one I knew was Illinois, and that's not that way anymore.
I think it's Washington State does that, and I knew New Jersey does that. That's the only two I know.
Yeah, I knew Illinois was like that for a while, but I think that was like in the 90s that stopped.
But I just didn't. I've like always heard of like that's always been like there's no way that exists because I only know how to do it like myself. So, um,
It was described to me as being one of those dirty union things, and I was like, "Is it really?" Okay.
I think well, yeah, there's that. Well, yeah, yeah. I think like the rest of the.
Speaking of unions, Robert Rodriguez is famous for not using union crews
Oh
on
yeah,
any of
yeah.
his films. Yeah, we could talk about that.
Oh yeah.
Too.
I mean that's all of independent cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was doing it on big budget stuff too. He kind of took it too far.
Oh
Because
yeah.
some people were immediately like, "Hey, dude."
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think because I think he was in the Directors Guild, and I think he like got kicked out of it or sent his resignation in for the second Sin City movie because it was a dual director thing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not allowed under the DGA or whatever,
Yeah.
unless it's an independent production. And because they had like some studio stuff behind it, it's like no, you can't have that. And it's like, all right, well, I rescind my because he only got back into their good graces when he did the Alita movie.
Okay.
I think that was produced by James Cameron, so that was kind of like the biggest movie he ever made. So, um, which is like a kind of which that movie is kind of weird and captivating because you watch it once and it seems like this might be garbage, and you watch it again, it's like you know what? I think this is actually well done.
It's beautiful and artful and strange all at once.
It's one of the most violent PG-13 movies you'll ever see.
Yeah, really rides that line hard. She just ripped that guy's head off. How is this? Oh, it's a robot head, kind of. Okay.
um, yeah, that was other like weird thing about Rodriguez because like I grew up kind of like idolizing him. It was like, yeah, this guy can do anything. There's nothing he can't do. And I remember when like they're shooting Planet Terror, he like left his wife for like the main actress in that, and then it's like, oh, this is weird.
Oh, that's right. I knew there was some kind of, and they'd been married a long
Yes,
time.
they've married decades.
Like, I'll see you later. See you later.
They got like 5 kids. And,
Yeah. I know he makes really good wraps.
oh, he makes good. I learned how to make breakfast tacos from him because every movie he
Yeah.
does, he gives you a Robert Rodriguez 10-minute cooking school.
Yeah.
And it's
We
like,
had those breakfast
yeah,
burritos, tacos that were. It's like, this is great.
it's like, man, what can't Robert Rodriguez do? It's like, I guess keep his wife.
He's faithful to his wife.
Oh,
I mean, you'd like to say like people's lives are complicated and
Yeah,
marriage
yeah.
is complicated and we don't know the ins and outs. But when you're just like getting a hot 20-year-old, it's like, okay, we know what this is. We don't need to probe too deeply into the realm of marriage to understand what this is based on. And men are only as faithful as their opportunity. You know, you never know what's going to happen. But,
well, and I always looked up to him. I thought he was a cool guy. Like he has a band too. There's like he's like the modern day John Carpenter. There's like nothing he can't do. And he was an independent guy, fiercely. And then like, but then I was there's that Netflix show. I think is it like Chef Show? I can't even remember. The guy who did the Chef movie then did like a Netflix documentary series about them, making food. And Robert Rodriguez is on there, and he's like making homemade pizzas. and he just comes off as like the weirdest fucking person I've ever seen. It's like I don't remember this side of Robert Rodriguez.
Was he acting like Tim Burton more, or was he?
He made you draw a picture to create art before you made a pizza.
Okay, so he was under the influence of something, most likely.
And he has like this like brick like lined like oval pizza oven in his house that probably costs $50,000 or something.
Yeah, first you got to get one of these.
Yeah, it's a
like,
wood fire pizza brick oven in his house.
oh, I know people that have those on their decks, like around me.
Yeah,
But they're not stone; they're like metal. But they build stone casements around. Yeah, they'll have just for the little ones that like the middle class people can afford. Oh, they'll sink $8,000 into one of those, and it's like, come on, guys. I mean, I get it; it's good, but it's not. I don't know. I haven't had pizza in a long time, but it's one of those no foods for me. So.
but yeah, a lot of independent people are like not they're union adverse. Because like I read an entire book on how to, because I was trying to learn about filmmaking as much as possible, and even got into the budgeting process. And there's like all these kinds of things that like once your budget like exceeds a certain amount of money, then like you're like required to hire like union people at some level. And like
15 million was the cap.
yeah, but there's a minimum too. Like if you're under, well, even like yeah, if it was something, the book I read is something like if the cost of the movie is under like $250,000, you can hire union actors at a special rate. And so basically, like you spend the minimum amount of money you can afford, and then like the actors union will cover the rest for them. But like they're just kind of like they're helping the independent film technically.
And some of that depends on where you get how your funding mechanisms work too.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's like local stuff. The funny thing in this like book I read about it, like they're able to keep the movie under like the $250,000 budget because like they had a family member that owned a hotel, and they basically saved like $80,000 in like housing and food costs because they got it for free.
Nice.
But, when you get all that stuff together, that's where you learn about like the movie Saw. They shot it in a week. It's like, yeah, that's why you shoot it in a week, so you can keep it under $1 million.
20-hour a day shoot and edit schedule.
Yeah. So yeah, like we got Earl McGraw here. He strikes up a conversation with the clerk Pete, played by John Hawkes, which he's kind of a character actor. I mean, I
know who this guy is.
You've seen him and stuff. He's in his latest thing. He's in the new season of True Detective, which I haven't seen. He was on Deadwood. He seems like a guy that would be in a lot of westerns, and he kind of is. So
yeah.
But here we got a young John Hawkes. Earl grabs a root beer and he just pops it and starts drinking it, and they also buy some whiskey. Earl's talking about like a special.
I love the price of that bottle of Jack Daniels.
Was it like $6.25 or something like that?
Yeah, it was something like that. It's like that's like $35-$40.
Yeah, and this guy is he's like, what are you trying to get some retirement out of it? So even then he thought $6.25 was an astronomical cost for some whiskey. So, which I don't know the price of alcohol, so like I didn't, it doesn't mean anything to me. It's like, oh, okay.
Back then, it would probably be anywhere from $12 to $15 would be like a regular store price.
Okay.
So I don't know what it cost in like South Texas, because the place they're in is like that's like Cormac McCarthy country of like the reason that place is a gas station / liquor store, everything, because it might be the only thing for 100 miles. It's like that's so places like that. It's like God knows, they can only charge so much because what are people doing for a living?
Yeah.
And also, I don't think they had the kind of taxes on liquor, because when you live in places that have like really low liquor tax, you'd be surprised how cheap it is. Like, oh man, I could drink for free around here. This is great.
Is that why everyone's an alcoholic in Milwaukee?
Yes, it's. You guys have pretty low booze taxes too.
Okay.
Like here, it's like pretty high, but everyone still manages to be quite the alcoholic here too. But It depends though. If you use like Michigan branded stuff, there it is cheaper. Not much, but like $2 or $3 cheaper.
Yeah.
So I drink a lot of like Michigan. There's all kinds of like Michigan booze started. I think there's for every town there's at least somebody who's making whiskey or vodka of some kind that's like it's unique to the Grand Traverse or something, you know. It's and we have all the Detroit. I mean, I got the Detroit, you know, the cool bottle. It became Victory Gin at some point, but it's this antique bottle. This is like was it the Two James Detroit, you know, vodka and rye whiskey and all that. So yeah, they have a lot of startup, and everyone makes beer here.
Yeah.
Or something, so something gritty and Germanic and like really dark, but it's not pasteurized because it's not going anywhere. So it's like, oh, this is really good if you get it straight from the place. But yeah, they have all that.
Earl talks about some special needs guy cooking. He, of course, doesn't say that. Yeah, there's no political correctness in this movie. So.
No. And that's what I like about it.
The good old days.
The good old days when you could talk about people like they weren't even humans.
Well, it is weird because it seems there's a lot of trivia on this movie saying that they had to cut a lot of out of it and to do special things to get it through the MPAA. So like that was back in the days where like they would knock you down for stuff. Here it was for the violence. Apparently that's why they made the vampires have green blood, because that
okay
got it through the MPAA. So yeah, because there's actually a lot of cut footage to this movie, like, and a lot of like special effects too. That's just violent special effects. It's like, they cut that out. I wonder why. I guess just pacing.
Yeah.
So he got sick from eating the bad food. So like Earl's not having a great day, and then he talks about a bank robbery in Abilene, or
Abilene.
Abilene. Okay. Although this is weird, because later on there's a news report that says, I get confused because it makes it sound like there's a news report about Seth's brother breaking him out of like the courthouse, but then there's also a bank robbery, or this is all the same thing, or these different times.
Well, I think he broke him out of the courthouse, and then they went and robbed a bank.
Okay. Okay, so it's all in the same thing. Okay.
Yeah. These are just like wild criminals. He killed like 6 Texas Rangers or something insane like that.
Yeah. So yeah. Here the kill count is they killed 4 Rangers, 3 cops, and 1 civilian, and they took a bank teller hostage. And it says they're running for the border and they're coming his way. So he's kind of eager to meet them. Then Earl says he needs to go to the bathroom, or he says use his commode, which is I feel like was between these mammoths of independent cinema, they use the commode for bathroom a lot. They like to use that word for that. Which,
yeah,
that's where
it's a funny word.
Yeah. Like I didn't know the word until like these movies. Like, why do they call it that? But I don't know if it's a regional thing or if it's just like they get tired of saying the word bathroom.
It could be. I always grew a lot of the guys that were in the Navy at like the plants, they just call it the head.
Yeah.
Got to use the head. That's like after I heard once somebody explained to me what that was, like, oh, okay, let's use the head. Why not?
Was it like in Britain or in Europe they call it like water closet?
Yeah, the WC.
Yeah.
Got to use the WC, which it actually makes sense because those are when the toilets like were fed from gravity overhead.
Yeah.
So it was like a water chest, which they still have those in some places.
Yeah.
Not in lame America though, because we had to come up with special toilets because we didn't want to use all our drinking water to flush feces away. It's like, yeah, in other countries they have, their toilets will you can put a watermelon down them. It's like, yeah, and they also don't have a lot of clean drinking water.
Yeah, they also have limited.
Yeah, you don't. If you drink the water in Chicago or L.A., it doesn't matter. It's pretty much the same. You're not gonna like, don't touch the water in Chicago or your shit till it hurts. It's like that. You don't have that problem here.
Oh, there's a lot of like half of Europe is, a like historical, and so you just have to like build things around that rather than making something new. So yeah, not a lot of air conditioning and not a lot of ice and drinks. It's like, who are these heathens?
Yeah, ice and air conditioning is. I remember when that was explained to me as being non-standard.
Yeah,
And this was in the other English-speaking country besides the U.S. and Canada. It's like they don't do air conditioning because they can have warm summers. They don't have like the death summers like we had in Arkansas or anything. They have some pretty warm summers there. And get in the 90s. It's like, nah, it's like really wealthy people. And even then, it's terrible. It's like not, it's like a window air conditioner for a house.
Yeah.
It's not like stuff we have where it's like industrial scale HVAC for your home. It's like, no, they don't do that there. Like, huh. And they also don't do hot water very well either.
yeah, they got like the weird mix thing.
Yeah.
Or you have to mix it, where they have the separate, like, here's the hot water pipe and here's the cold water pipe, and well, I guess we have that too, but theirs, I forget, theirs is different and weird.
Well, their water heaters are about this big.
Yeah.
Whereas ours are like, well, mine's 60 some gallons in my basement. So I could get the jumbo one. Now I guess you can't, but you could at what time I put it in. So
I can get those tankless ones too, where they, as far as I know, they do a good job, but
I've heard those die off a lot quicker because when the guys came over to do my last one, we explored all the options. So I was like, well, what's the most like energy efficient one? And it's like, what about those tankless ones? Like, those are great, but they don't. I was like, what kind of life expectancy are you wanting? I was like, for this kind of money, more than 5 years. So yeah, it's
yeah, and it also depends on like what your water source is. Because I know like
we're Detroit River here, so it's actually pretty good water.
well, yeah, like yeah, in Cedar Rapids it seems to be fine, but we had like like I've never changed I'd never been like in a place where we had to change the water heater at all. And then I got into
Yeah.
a business where like I was changing water heaters like pretty much like almost every day.
Yeah.
And it was all in the same area. It was like these towns outside of Cedar Rapids. And it's like, oh, they got the Marion water, which means it destroys their water heaters.
Yep.
It just becomes a calcium deposit after 5 years.
Now, see, where I live and the places near me, like we all get Detroit River. Now, Ann Arbor, they get the Eel River, which is like, yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, well, you better get a stainless steel dishwasher so it'll last for 4 years because all the insides of it will just be ruined by lime deposits and stuff. You can get water softeners here, but they don't. Whatever's in the water coming out of that river, it doesn't.
Yeah, because all the Marion places we've changed out. Like they have water softener stuff in there. It doesn't matter. So
no. So we lucked out here. I mean, our water is very expensive too because it has to be piped all this way. But I'll take that over. That's why I don't water my lawn anymore because I couldn't do the $500 a month water. But it's like, would I have a pool in my backyard? I didn't know about. Why is it so expensive?
So Earl goes to the bathroom, and then the Gecko brothers just kind of appear out of the corner of the shop holding hostages.
Yeah,
this is George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino, which had a weird thing. Oh, did I write it down? There's the blonde hostage, who we've seen before. Do you remember in Jackie Brown when they had the whole bag switching scenario at the end of the movie?
Yes. Yeah.
So the clerk at the counter at the where she's getting her clothes in the bag from, that's this blonde lady here.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I forget, maybe it's the redhead lady. I went down a weird rabbit hole. Do you know the Mr. Smith? There's like Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
The movie with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Do you know of other things called that exact name?
You know what? I can't think of any.
Okay, so that's not like so as far as you know, that's not based on anything, right?
As far as I know, no.
Okay, because like I found there was a comedy done by Alfred Hitchcock called Mr. and Mrs. Smith, where they thought they were married and they weren't, and then that's a comedy.
Huh. Okay.
And then in 1996, there's a Scott Bakula and Maria Bello are in a TV series called Mr. and Mrs. Smith, where they're spies that are paired together and go on missions, and like they're only supposed to be married when they're on the missions. And it came out in 1996.
Oh, okay.
And then there's 2008. You have the Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And then like last year, you got the new Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and I have no idea if they're interconnected at all. Because I don't see, because every created by credit in each of those things are different people. Nobody crosses between any of them. So it's weird. So I think they eventually just like run out of there, so they get away from these guys. But for right now, they're being threatened with guns. Yeah, because Seth, George Clooney, he's just like, hey, get this guy out of here, so we don't. Otherwise, we're just gonna kill everybody. And then of course, Richard, which I think you just call him Richie throughout. That's Quentin Tarantino's character. He like whispers in, and he's like, and then Seth's like pauses for a moment. He's like, were you giving that guy signals? He's like, no, I wasn't giving the guy signals. And so they hear him to like come out. Well, also Richie proposes that they just kill Earl while he's in the bathroom and get out of here. So you're going to see that Richie's the loose cannon here, because he just always immediately goes to violence.
Yeah.
So they hear Earl coming out, and they just like go to the back corners again, and Earl's about to pay for booze, and then Richard just comes up and shoots Earl in the head, and then they argue about it. Seth's arguing with Richie. Richie and Seth are arguing with Pete, and they're like, because he said he mouthed the words "help" or something like that, and it's like, I did not. You're lying. And so they shoot, and then he shoots. I forget who shoots Pete. Pete gets shot in the shoulder, Hollywood shoulder shot. And so the Gecko brothers continue to argue, and then Pete's able to like kick open some stuff, and then gets a safe open, and then there's a handgun in there, and they have like a shootout. And then while they're ducking away with the shootout, Seth like puts together like a Molotov cocktail, or is it? Or no, he has Richie just shoot the liquor above the counter, and then he just gets like some toilet paper, like kicks a shelf, and the lighter fluid falls down, and he catches it and like lights it on, and throws it in there, and they catch him on fire. And then they're like, well, that's done. And then Pete pops up while on fire trying to shoot at them. And then he just runs out of ammo, and then he dies in the popcorn, and the popcorn starts popping. So
yeah, I've never seen a guy like the guy on fire scenes are dangerous enough. Now you have a guy on fire like in a gunfight.
Yeah,
it's like crazy scene.
Then the Gecko brothers leave the liquor store, and they're arguing while like the store blows up behind them. Which I think I remember the fun trivia about this is that this was one take. They could not do this a second time.
Yeah, and they could not react to it.
Yeah. They just had to pretend it wasn't happening. Which that's a lot of you have one take and you have dialogue, and basically, well, this has to go right. Yeah. Which you could have easily cut around that if you had to, but here it's all done in one take, so they got it to work. I'm not sure if they credit this as like, and maybe not, but they just walk away and ignore the explosion things. That's probably a trope before this, but I remember people point to this one as one of those things.
Yeah, well, because they jump into a cool like old beater, which is like a '68 Mercury Cougar.
Okay.
Which those are really cool cars.
Yeah, that car looked cool. So
you can get one now for like $10,000, I think.
Yeah, here it looks terrible. I mean, it still looks cool even though it's terrible. It looks like a Mad Max car essentially, because it's all covered in dust and nobody's taking care of it. Yeah, because they probably just stole it from somebody. So, or it was easy, or it was old enough that they could just hotwire it.
Yeah.
So yeah, they take off down the road. Now we get the opening credits. We get Dark Knight by the Blasters Place.
Yes, which is interestingly enough a song about racism and murder.
Huh.
Hot air hangs like a dead man from a white oak tree. People sitting on porches thinking how things used to be. Dark night. Neighborhood was a changing. Strangers moving in. A new boy fell for a local girl when she made eyes at him. He was young and pretty, no stranger to other men. but windows were being locked at night and old lines drawn again. I could do the whole song. Yeah, it was a very cool. It's a kind of a rockabilly song.
Yeah.
So he was very cool, and then it has really loud, like has a cool guitar solo intro, and then just kind of a loud chorus.
Yeah, the dark night, because they sandwich it in the movie here. So
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, here we get like full credits with the song, and then we kind of pop back into like the action, and they're in the car, and Seth pops booze and pills while Richard duct tapes the hole in his hand. I think I forgot he got shot in his hand, which they have like where they hold up his hand and like they show like Seth's eyeball looking through the hole in his hand, which that's fun, just fun cinematography. They just got just a mannequin hand or whatever and just put a hole in it.
Yeah.
And they also have like a weird like shot where they show that they still have a hostage in their trunk. It just looks really weird. I do like the car drives away and then they pop a credit on screen and then like the camera like moves past the car and then like it comes back into frame and then out of frame. Then we cut to the brother they get a motel room. They get the teller out of the trunk and put her in the room. Seth leaves to get the money out of the car. There's like a weird kind of like whooshing sounds to punctuate that like Richie is like weird. It's like he's dangerous.
Yeah, him and his brother don't they? It's like George Clooney's the level-headed one.
Yeah,
like you can tell that something's wrong with his brother. It's like, oh well, he's insane.
Yeah, and he's always asking like, "You believe me, right?" Like he needs this like to be
validated all the time.
But we'll find out later on. It's like, okay, he's living in a different world. So, but Seth talks about how they need to get to El Rey, where like they need to offer up 30% of the loot to the local gangsters that they rob. Now, do you have any association with the place or person or words El Rey? Does that mean anything to you?
Why the hell am I thinking of Cormac McCarthy again?
Well, I mean, the only thing I know from wrestling that Ray means king, so it really just means the king.
What isn't there a Steve McQueen movie, a Sam Peckinpah Steve McQueen movie where they're trying to get to El Rey?
The Getaway. We watched it.
Yeah, okay, I thought so. So I have heard this. So why am I thinking Cormac McCarthy? Probably because I'm thinking Texas.
Yeah, I mean, but see, the thing is, like, well, I'm not sure how, like, in the movie, like, I think they need to get to El Rey. In the book, they get there, and it's very weird. Like, it's this kind of weird place. It's almost like a purgatory or hell, where it's like as people pay out the nose to live free on the run in this gangster town, El Rey. But as soon as they run out of money, they kick them out of town, and there's like a local like cannibal group that will kill people and eat them if they run out of money.
So it's like the ultimate. It's like a libertarian purge.
So I don't know if like that's what they're going for in this movie, but that's the only association I have with the term El Rey. I tried to look up, is there really an El Rey, Mexico? And like, no, like I couldn't find one. So.
It makes sense though with the themes of the movie.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's what. Also, weirdly, later on, Robert Rodriguez created a cable network called El Rey.
Oh, okay.
Which probably most famous for their Lucha Underground wrestling show, which was fantastic for the time it had. And they also did a TV version of From Dusk Till Dawn, which I've only seen 2 episodes, and I remember it being all right. So, but
yeah, I've seen actually all of them, and the first season's actually pretty good.
Okay,
but it does start to it degrades pretty rapidly, and it looks like there was like changes made as time went on, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah, it seemed like the network was running out of money rather quickly because it doesn't exist as a cable network now, and they don't make original programming, but they still exist as like a Roku channel.
Okay.
So whatever. Apparently, they have the rights to, or I looked under the Wikipedia page and it shows like all their original programming, which they must be rebroadcasting on this Roku channel, and also they have like I'm not sure like exclusive rights, but they're like renting the rights to like Incredible Hulk and Alien Nation and a bunch of just old television shows.
Huh.
um, but yeah, so it technically exists some way. So, but yeah, Richie's mad at Seth for not negotiating a better deal. He thinks 30% is too much of a cut to take out of their. You know, we don't even know how much money they have. They have a suitcase of money, so it seems like what do they have? Like 50 grand?
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't be. It doesn't seem like it's like our life is set. We can just get across the border with. We can be the king of Mexico with $100,000. Like, doesn't seem like.
They don't got heat money with them, so.
Yeah.
Although I like that, I think you only see the money once, so like they're never with the money until the end of the movie, which it seems like if you just robbed a bank, you'd be close to that money as good as you could be. But they're always leaving the money in the car and the RV. It just never comes up. Seth lays out the rules for Gloria. He just seems that's like the weird thing because I guess like I saw this a lot on cable, so I saw more of like the middle to end of this movie all the time rather than the beginning. I didn't realize like watching this time like how much of a hole they put these characters in, where it's like these are our heroes, like these are despicable, awful people. It's like they're going to get what they deserve.
Yeah, wait till they start dying. Too long.
So Seth leaves. Richard asks Gloria if she wants to come over on the bed and watch TV with him, which this is just obviously weird. And it's like, well, this isn't going to end well. And then she gets on the bed and he's like, take your shoes off. So that's when we start with the whole foot thing with Richie here.
Now, somebody told me this lady was actually George Clooney's acting coach.
Huh, okay.
And they just put her in the movie. I don't know if that's true or not. Sounds cool.
I mean, for an independent movie, that would make perfect sense.
Yeah.
Like, I think like I said, I think they, or maybe they spent like 19 million on this. Yeah, I think they spent 19 million on this, but they still, you gotta cut costs where you can. So you have somebody on board. Yeah, maybe she got health insurance because she got a speaking role in a movie.
Yeah. For her.
Then we cut to a diner. We have Jacob Fuller, played by Harvey Keitel, and his adopted kids. Well, I'm not sure if they're both adopted or one's adopted because there's one Asian kid, Scott, played by Ernest Liu, which I think is the only thing he's ever done, but are known for. And then Kate Juliette Lewis, who is like, I don't. This is like, yeah, it's kind of like the same character she played in Cape Fear, where she's just the teenage daughter that's getting like weirdly creeped on by people.
Yeah, it's very similar, it seems.
But this is also like she did like 2 years before this, she did Natural Born Killers. So it's like the weird run for Juliette Lewis here. So
I would say this is kind of the end of her, like those characters in her career.
Yeah, probably.
Because this is like, I'm trying to think of what she did after. I know everything she did before this.
Yeah, I forget the in between. I know now she like her big thing is Yellow Jackets, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Because that whole show is kind of about like people that were famous in the 90s and now having to deal with the aftermath of their lives, and there it's about a plane crash and cannibalism and stuff like that. In real life it's just their acting careers. So.
Because she did California, Natural Born Killers, Strange Days, The Basketball Diaries, What's Eating Gilbert Grape even before that, and then Cape Fear even before that. And this is kind of like, this is the last movie I remember where Juliette Lewis is like playing Juliette Lewis type characters. But like I said, I haven't seen, what was it called?
Yellow Jackets?
Yeah, I haven't seen.
You haven't seen Yellow Jackets? I thought you did. Okay, you should probably.
No. I think I was going to, but there was a time I had to get.
It's a Showtime thing, so yeah, you probably haven't seen it.
So I was running out of money, so it's like, well, I can't have $500 worth of streaming services.
Yeah, Yellow Jacks is about like a cheerleader group in the 90s, and their plane crashes, and there's almost like a So you intercut between their lives today, where they're seemingly like kind of like dejected, depressed parents who are like
Yeah.
reluctant with their lives, and then you cut back to like the kind of almost lost type of mysterious island, like Lord of the Flies, weird random stuff where they were killing each other in the wilderness after this plane crash,
Oh wow.
and like cannibalism
Interesting.
and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah. Because I thought Stacy put up something on Facebook about really liking it, so I assumed you had seen it, but
No, she liked the ones we liked was sharp
oh,
objects.
okay.
That was the one because that wasn't happy.
Because yeah, I think Julia Lewis is around your age too, so
Yeah, I think she is.
which is weird because like I think I saw that she was
She's
50.
exactly my age, so she's a little bit. She's like 6 months older than me.
Yeah, the weird though I thought was Salma Hayek because I looked up her age. Apparently she's 57, so I wouldn't expect her to be 7 years older than Juliette
No,
Lewis.
I wouldn't expect that either.
um, let's see, where are we?
Oh, George Clooney was the first character I remember seeing that have the shithead tattoos that everyone has now. Everyone who's some version of this guy,
Yeah.
maybe not quite the psycho killer, but yeah, because I forgot, like, oh yeah, must have been when those shithead tattoo, what they call those tribal tattoos.
Yeah.
I just call them shithead tattoos because everyone I know that's ever had one that I've actually known is shithead.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, shithead tattoo. Cool.
But now you can call them racist because yeah, that's like that goes back to like Maori culture and stuff like that. So
Oh, does it? Okay.
so yeah, if you're not if you're not part of a tribe of the Pacific then, and you're white, then it might be cultural appropriation.
Oh, there's plenty of cool like Saxon stuff you can get tattooed all over your body if you have to express yourself that way. I guess I don't know. Like I said, my thing about tattoos, I never believed in anything long enough to get it etched on my skin.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, the closest I think I do it, I like the Metal Gear. Oh, what was it? Metal Gear Solid. Oh, what the hell was that called? Metal Gear Solid PSP game. Oh, Peace Walker. That's it. Because it had a peace symbol where the piece in between was a B-52 bomber.
nice.
I was like, yeah, that's the kind of irony I like. But also, like, the circle on it was kind of like, it's sort of like put together in a weird way where it's sort of like a circular, like, barcode.
Oh, okay.
Which probably has some significance because it's Kojima and everything has all significance. You could probably run it through some weird European spectrograph computer and it would spit out a message about the end of the world or something like that.
That is a cool symbol. I like that.
So Juliette Lewis. So we got Scott and Kate, or Jacob's kids. They're going on vacation to El Paso. Here we learn that Jacob has left the church. He was a pastor or minister, I guess. Are all the P words? There's priest.
Gray, parson, pastor.
Yeah, priest, preacher, pastor. Yeah. You learn that he had a wife, Jenny, who was passed. Then we cut to a news report, like just like straight up. They cut to a news reporter. It's like a whole different scene, and here they're basically like laying out like a scorecard of all the people that the Gecko brothers have killed. Like they have the numbers going up as she's doing the report. So, because I think it was after they're doing they're cutting the reports of the liquor store. Then we cut back to Seth gets back to the motel. Here he has the big Kahuna burger bag, which that's the burgers in Pulp Fiction. So again, they're merging their metaverse here. Gloria's missing, and then like, or Seth's like, "Where is she?" And she's like, "She's in the other room." And like, when she says it like nothing.
Yeah.
But of course, Richie's killed her in bed. So we get really brief intercuts for like just like seconds, like the Pulp Fiction splice it, or not Pulp Fiction, the Fight Club splice stuff of like the violence that has occurred. And so basically she's on the bed, stripped, shot 4 times in the head, and blood is everywhere.
Yeah.
And nobody noticed. So So here we know that there's a growing psychological problem with Richie. Seth is rightfully angry with Richie, and he who just seems to rape and kill people. Like he says that, like it's like I'm a professional thief. I do not rape and kill people like you do. Which also here's where like Richie gets mad about that. It's like, hey, come on, I'm not crazy. Like he gets really
Yeah,
mad about that, calling him crazy.
doesn't like to be called crazy. And the quick intercut to the horror that he did, and George Clooney seeing it was actually more effective than like hanging on the scene,
Yeah,
because it makes it seem like this guy's really
yeah. A
messed
lot
up.
of it is left to your imagination. I mean, they eventually cut to sort of like a cut where you could see the whole scene in the background, but like
Yeah,
it's like it's still like left up to your imagination. So,
I do like the guns used in this movie because I looked them up.
oh yeah,
Because all the guns that are used by the main characters are like, they're not brands of guns that we would buy.
like Taurus stuff or something.
Yeah, it's like well, George Clooney uses something called an Astra Terminator, which is like a 44. I think I don't even know if it fires magnums. I think it might fire the 44 specials.
Okay,
And then Quentin Tarantino's character Richie uses a 1911, but it's made by Norinco, or as it's listed, and if you look up who the manufacturer is, it's unknown Chinese firms. Now the cops and like they use like Smith and Wessons and stuff,
yeah,
or shotguns, but or Mossberg shotguns show up later in the movie. But yeah, the main character guns are like they're just like really cheap things,
yeah,
like, which would make sense because they're probably stolen.
yeah.
Like these guys aren't going into a gun store and like, yeah, I'll take the Remington. It's like doesn't work that way.
Although it's like Richie's gun's like nickel plated, so he must have like
Yeah,
got it because it was flashy. But whoever he got it from, it was a cheap flashy.
yeah. I think the only Norinco I ever owned was an SKS I had in the 90s. I remember you could get those for like $200 or something at one time.
Oh yeah, that'd be worth like $1,800.
Not only could you get them for like $200, but I think it came with 500 rounds of ammunition and like one of those crates that you had to unwind it with like a key, like a
Yeah.
can of meat. Is like, yeah, it was a one-shot deal. But those you had to load through the top. They like didn't have detachable magazines and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Because that was when the Brady thing just started or whatever. But then, of course, you just got the detachable magazine kit and put it on. But I never messed with it because I didn't really like because I couldn't hit anything with it. It's like, why does this gun suck? Do I not know what I'm doing? And then I tried like regular guns and I was hitting every time. It was like, oh, this gun must be just terrible.
There's just something manufactured as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so it's like I got rid of that one.
But did you have the
quick.
flip up bayonet? That was always the cool thing about the SKS.
No, because they had to take that off for
okay.
this. Yeah, because like I said, that's just when the Brady bill first started, so they had to take all that stuff off. That's when freedom was imperative.
Then we cut to Jake and their family are stopping at the same motel that the Gecko brothers are at. Seth like weirdly walks in their way while they're parking. He's drinking a beer.
Yeah.
Then we cut to it's a moment later. There's a knock at the door. Jacob answers. Like Scott's playing guitar with headphones on, and then all Jacob wants to do is sleep. So he's like sleeping. You don't know how long he's been asleep. Richard's at the door. He's asking for an ice bucket, and when he lets him in, the brothers like take the family hostage. Here's where Richard hallucinates that Kate comes in, and so they grab her hostage because she like went to the pool or something like that. She's in a bikini, and Richard here hallucinates like Kate coming on to him.
Yeah.
She's like, "Would you mind eating my pussy?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." But
I love that scene because it's played so earnestly.
Yeah. Well,
because you can tell, like Juliette Lewis actually said that,
Yeah.
but not in the context of the movie. It was just his hallucination, and he's like being real amicable, like absolutely, like that's a question that any stranger you just met would ask you. It's like I can help you with that.
But that's when you officially know, like even if the evidence wasn't there. Oh, not only is he like, he's not just like a psychopath, but he's like hallucinating things that he lives in a different world than all of us.
Yeah, he's not really nothing that's going on around him except killing is like resonating.
I mean, yeah, like his brother's the only kind of like like keystone or like what like
Linchpin, or
to reality.
keeps him anchored to reality somewhat. And he also is taking medicine,
Oh, is he?
and he has
Okay.
a bite guard too. We
Yeah.
find out.
So yeah, they Richie goes to get the motor home, and then Seth makes Kate put on clothes in the bathroom, I presume for her own good. So to try to keep, because this is where he's like worried about what he's gonna do to women now. So it's like,
Yeah, he doesn't seem to have like a moral concern. Like, be decent. He's like, no, my brother will actually turn you into sausage the first chance he gets.
yeah.
So.
Which it's only gonna like hurt him. So it's like, yeah, he doesn't really care about what he's gonna do. He just doesn't want the attention that's gonna happen because of it. So it's like, put some clothes on. Jacob tries to negotiate with Seth to just take him, but Seth doesn't agree to it. So there's kind of a contention there. So that's the end of Act 1. We got Act 2. Richard's holding the kids hostage. Kate asks like where they're taking him, and he's just like, Mexico, and she's like, what's in Mexico? And he just goes, Mexican.
Yeah. Good. He's a good shithead. Yeah. Plays it well.
Yeah, but also with his character, it's like it doesn't seem like he's making the joke. It's just like, no, it's just straightforward. Like that's what it is, Well, it's not.
Yeah, these guys aren't geniuses.
No.
They're just like violent criminals. So they're not like, we're not really thinking too deeply into. We're thinking about staying alive the next 5 hours. That's kind of our plan.
Seth tells Richard to put his retainer in, or his bite guard. It's like because he grinds his teeth. I don't know. That's always been a thing, but yeah, like 90s dental stuff was always like always found its way into film because it was always like a hassle. It made you look like a dork and stuff like that. So he's already got glasses, and I gotta have like dental stuff. It's weird now because it seems there's a lot of like adults with like braces nowadays. That seemed like it seemed like in the 90s, like if you just got to your 30s, like, well, I guess I just have fucked up teeth. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
It's like now people are like, oh, well, I might as well get it fixed.
Well, like my son didn't even have to have braces, but he did have teeth that weren't straight.
Yeah.
You just use those things that you put in while you sleep, and they straighten your teeth, and you just get upgrades every month.
Oh, is that different from the Invisalign stuff, or is it that? So
yeah, that is Invisalign.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's like like me, they had to physically install braces. That didn't work out too well, so I didn't do too well dealing with that. But my teeth aren't all a mess either. Now most of them are like veneers at this point, but that was my problem. But they
I have mostly good teeth. Like the funny thing with me is like I have like kind of one different tooth here, and so went to orthodontist. Is like, all right, we're gonna fix that. We're gonna put braces on. It's like, all right, whatever. But first we need to put a bumper guard in because I need to like move my lip out so there's room to put the braces in.
Okay, yeah.
And then we like lost our insurance, and then suddenly the dental people are like, you don't need that. And then I just had a bumper guard for like 3 years, and then when we got insurance again, they just took it out, and I never got braces.
No. Okay. Yeah, I have my teeth are pretty good now, but I have the UAW to Ford to thank for that.
Yeah.
So that's and they're mostly, a lot of them aren't real either. So.
Well, I also got lucky. I only had upper wisdom teeth.
Oh, okay.
Which I didn't get taken out till I was like 30, because that's when.
Yeah, me too.
Because that's when I had dental insurance. So.
I just didn't want to do it the first time because they said, "Oh yeah, we could paralyze you." It's like, what? I have to tell you about the risks. It's like, well, you've informed me of the risks, and now I'm not interested in doing it. It was only much later in life. Because I told the guy that. I was like, I was told that like half my face could be paralyzed. And he's like, well, that's not really the case anymore. But it's like, okay.
Well, I remember the funny thing is I thought like they'd have to put you out for that stuff. But mine was just like local anesthesia. They just like drilled in and pulled it out.
I had all four in a sideways one. They had to put me out.
Okay.
It was terrible. I wasn't right for like a week.
Yeah, I remember like also the fun thing with that, like they tell you all the things you're not supposed to eat because you don't want to end up with a dry socket. And
Yeah.
like I completely forgot about that, and I ate like sunflower seeds until I got one in the socket and had to pull it out. But luckily, I didn't get a dry socket. So,
Oh, okay.
let's see. Oh yeah, Richie. Yeah, Seth tells Richie to put in his retainer. Seth questions Jacob about like his life. He finds out like he used to be a minister, but no longer. He's also looking through his like wallet, which he has a big wallet.
Yeah. That's one of those old wallets that would screw your back up. Sit on it.
Yeah, I've pared down my wallet. I still have a ton of stuff in there, but I have just less stuff now. No, I'm like a no change wallet, so that's that's the big thing.
I have a normal size wallet, but I put it in my front pocket.
Yeah.
So that immediately precludes me putting a bunch of crap in there. I almost got one of those. This podcast brought to you by Ridge Wallet. And I was going to get one, but I never really got around to it.
I got an Wallet. It's like wallet if you just remove the W.
Okay.
They're made in California and they have RFD blocking stuff in them. So.
Okay.
So yeah, this is where we find out that Jacob's wife Ginny died in a car wreck, like on a rainy night with bad brakes. Which he gets the extra details where it's like she died quick, and he's like, no, she like couldn't get out and was trapped there for 6 hours and eventually died. It's like,
yeah, it's horrible. It's like, oh, did she just get decapitated in a car wreck or just die instantly? Now she essentially bled out.
Yeah.
Over a very long period of time and died in agony, we're assuming, which is like kind of implied like why he is a former preacher.
Yeah, the cruelty visited upon innocent people doesn't seem fair. So.
Yeah.
But here's also where like he says to Jake to Seth that if Richie touches her, I'll kill him, and he's like, fair enough. Like, and then he also like he tells Richie to like stop talking to the kids because like yeah, Richard starts staring at Kate's feet and then the rest of her body, and then he starts inquiring about his hallucinations, like, I can do that for you. And of course, she has no idea what he's talking about. It's like, thing is.
That's what I love about that. That's so weird.
Yeah, then Seth tells him to shut up because he just like doesn't want more trouble. They get to the border. The geckos hide in the bathroom while holding a gun to Kate's head. Scott tries to convince Jacob to like turn in the Gecko brothers. Which I like here. He's talking about like, he's learned stuff from like, tabloid shows and stuff like that, because that's how he got information back then. like I watch cop shows. We got to make the best chance we can. Yeah, because like, it's like Seth's making promises like that the evidence otherwise will say like, no, there's no reason to trust this guy. Like, he's just gonna kill you when he's done with you because you're just gonna tell him or whatever. But presumably he ends up being sincere, but through the strangest of circumstances. Then we have Cheech Marin in his first role in this movie.
Yeah, 1 of 3.
He's a border guard. He gets suspicious and he comes on board because Jacob says, it's just me and my son. And there's a knock in the back when, I think that's when Seth calls Richie crazy, and he gets incensed by that and starts getting louder and louder, so he just elbows him in the face and knocks him out. And then he's like, oh, that's my daughter in the back. And so then the patrol guard gets weird about that, so he comes on board. Like he opens up the door to the bathroom and she's sitting on the toilet, and then to just throw out the border. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. And then the border agent apologizes, and then as he's closing the door, he's like looking extra and creeps on her. It's like, that's weird. So,
yeah, it's a weird scene. Man.
Yeah, women. Yeah, and presumably she's a teenager in this movie, so it's like, nah.
Yeah, this is like a teenage girl.
I mean, in reality, she was like 24 or something like that, but
yeah.
in this movie, she's a teenager, presumably.
Yeah, I think the last time she was a teenager, an actual teenager, was probably Cape Fear.
I think she was 18 in Cape Fear, which makes that even extra weird, I guess.
Oh, and I found out like the name of the border guard. It was Oscar. That was actually Cheech Marin's dad's name was Oscar Marin. That's why he did that.
Huh. Okay. Has Mark Maron ever interviewed Cheech Marin?
That'd be interesting.
um. So yeah, they get across the border. Seth celebrates. Is like, yeah, you guys are all officially in my cool book, or what's he say? What's that it or something like that? And
Yeah,
something very
something.
Tarantino line.
Yeah,
It's like something Tarantino extracted from the 50s and then brought it forward in a anachronistic way. He's like, I'm bringing it back. It's that great dialogue that nobody talks like that, but it's just fun because Tarantino's
yeah.
great.
You want to talk like that, or you think like that later.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if I said that, but if you actually did say it, people would just look at you like you're weird.
Then we cut to Seth wakes up Richie and tells them that like what they're gonna do. He's like, so he has no memory of being hit in the face and all that stuff. And he's like, yeah, we got through the border. And it's like, oops, you just suddenly passed out and now your glasses are broken, which I thought was gonna be a plot point, but it's never a thing. Because in almost every movie, if a character with glasses breaks their glasses, then there has to be a scene where that's a problem. It's like, oh, they can't see. So they pull onto the Titty Twister strip club bar, which is a bunch of like flamethrowers going outside.
Yeah.
There's like truckers and bikers everywhere. This is a thing that I am completely unsure if this is true or not. But what I remember of the cable edit of this, it was called the Kitty Twister, and they like reimposed a different sign on there to have it so they could have it in the movie still. I'm not sure if they cut out the dialogue, but yeah, it was Kitty Twister. And I tried to look that up on the internet, and I could not find it. So this could just be me making something up. But yeah, you'll probably never get like the yeah, probably people won't know the the glorious versions of cable edits of TV shows and how they had to dub over swear words and stuff like that, because they wouldn't beep them usually. They just change them over. Because I remember it was famous in Quentin Tarantino movies where they dub over motherfucker with melon farmer.
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I know they did weird stuff like that.
Or Mother Lovers, the other one. I think that's in the cable edit of Die Hard 2 is like Yippee-ki-yay, Mother Lover.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah. You should have that on on YouTube, just a video of all the substitutes.
And they're all like, because like they weren't done by professional studios. They're just like done by like interns, and so it was just always abrupt. They never had good sound alikes. But yeah, people know that nowadays. Nowadays, it's just not a problem because it's like,
Yeah.
I guess I haven't watched modern cable just because it seems like so much they just let through now. Like I think they'll just like edit out the F word and the S word, but like everything else, well, no, they won't even edit out shit anymore. Like they'll let that through, but I think that's like a time of day thing. Because I remember,
Yeah. Yeah, I was in the South Park thing. Like, we can say this as much as we want to because it comes on after 10 o'clock. And they said, like, bastard 400 times or something crazy like that.
well, even like I remember Comedy Central was touting because like there was a rules change, or it wasn't a rules change, just nobody did it. But like technically after midnight, you don't have to like nudity's still a thing you have to cover up or edit around, but language isn't. It's just a free for all. And so like Comedy Central like 15 years ago was touting like, hey, watch Clerks unedited at midnight, and they tried to make a midnight thing because they were trying to compete with Adult Swim, because that was just
Oh, okay.
everybody tries to compete with Adult Swim, and then I don't know how much money Adult Swim makes, but like it must be enough that like we gotta get this audience in. So now we got Cheech Marin plays Chet Pussy. This is his second character. He sells all the pussy. They just give him like 5 minutes. And it's like a stand-up routine, basically.
Yeah.
the geckos are waiting for Carlos. He's supposed to be like the big gangster here that's going to take him to El Rey. So they go into the bar, the Titty Twister. Seth beats up Chet, who like tries to stop him on their way in, which I don't know why he's the guy. Like they have, bouncers in the bar, but like I don't know why Chet's out here bouncing. He seems like he's selling stuff, but maybe he was supposed to stop him and tell like, hey, only truckers and bikers only, because we get that like a moment later. So, but yeah, so Seth just beats up Chet. He breaks his finger, punches him in the face, and then he's like and then Chet falls on the ground, and then like they all go in, and then like Richie like comes up and like kicks him, is like, how's it going, how you doing, and like kicks him in the stomach a bunch of times, and they go into the bar. So in the bar there's strippers all over the place, like, you know, there's like multi levels, and so you have strippers on each level, but it's not like there's just like, it's a tall building, but there's kind of like archways at multi stories on the walls, and so there's strippers in the different archways at different levels. There's a live band. There's bikers and ruffians about. Here we meet Razor. This is Danny Trejo. He's the bartender. Razor says the bar is for bikers and truckers only, so they're about to get thrown out when Jacob intervenes to say that he has a truck driver's license for his RV, and so he says like, so I'm a truck driver and these are my friends, and then Razor seems to be like, all right, cool. So,
well, as long as you have a Class B license, sir, that's all.
That's all we care about here in Mexico, the rules.
Yeah, well, Mexico is known for one thing: it's love of the rules.
Seth kicks a guy out of the chair and helps a dancer off the table, and then he just sits down. Which it seems like, man, you crossed the border. Why do you keep antagonizing people?
Yeah, these people go kill you and like just bury your body in a hole. It's like nobody's this much of a badass, no matter how many douchebag tattoos they have. They're not, or what do they call it? Shithead tattoos?
Yeah. But yeah, this just continues to show the bad decision making by Seth, and how he's like a hothead, and how he feels like he just has to be bigger than everybody. But you know, what do you call that? Insecurity? Yeah.
Yeah.
Toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity. Love that one.
Which I guess, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they shot this movie quick or if this was just a really crazy schedule for George Clooney, because he was shooting ER at the time. Like, this movie kind of did make him a star or prove that he could be one. But then his next movie was Batman and Robin, which seemed like it should have destroyed his career, but then he came back with Peacemaker, and then they're like, all right, I guess you're a movie star. And then really it was Out of Sight that made him a movie star, because then he got to connect with Steven Soderbergh, and then he got into directing, they did the Oceans movie, and it's like, yeah, George Clooney's a star. So
I always thought it was the Thin Red Line that started his career, you know, Terrence
Yeah, hey George, you want to be the 18th side character in this World War II drama?
Want to be the largest ensemble World War II movie ever, which is what it will be famous for. Also, Three Kings. I think Three Kings helped
that too.
Yeah,
he's an interesting like movie star, because it just like, yeah, he seems like he seems to have like, he seems like an old school movie star. Like, he would, like, if he was making movies in like the 50s, like he would be like the guy.
Yeah, he looks like that.
Because he's never like a guy who like, hey, look, I'm a buff guy or anything like that. But here he's playing like he's a big guy. He's got tattoos on, but he's not really that guy. But that actually works for the character because, you know, insecurity. So
yeah.
Here we're also introduced to Sex Machine. This is played by Tom Savini, who is like a legendary independent special effects makeup guy. He's one of the George Romero Pittsburgh guys. So like he did like he did like the special effects from Dusk Till Dawn, and he worked on Day of the Dead. Or sorry. I meant Dawn of the Dead. Well, he also did special effects here too, but yeah. So yeah, those are great special effects. Actually, the best ones are probably in Day of the Dead, which has fantastic, frightening special effects. It's not the greatest movie, but it is the one of the most disturbing, violent movies you'll ever see. So, but yeah, he worked with George Romero. There was like that Martin movie he worked on, which is kind of like a weird, low key vampire movie that George Romero did. And he just worked all over like horror movies and stuff. So he's like famous for being a horror movie special makeup guy, but he has such enough of a personality where they're like, "Hey, Tom Savini, why don't you be in this movie?" So he just kind of had roles around Hollywood. I'm not sure if he did it before this, but like definitely after this, he would just pop up in places, and independent places.
I think he was in. Wasn't he in Creep Show?
Yeah, he did special effects there, and he probably directed something there too.
No, I thought he was one of the actors.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Um, he's also in, I think Planet Terror. Yeah, he gets around. He does everything, but yeah, he's most known for being.
He had like a bit part in the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead.
Okay, yeah, that makes
the sheriff on TV.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
you gotta shoot him in the head. This one's a twitcher. He was that
okay, yeah.
for him from that.
I
know he was in Grindhouse somewhere, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I think he's just a sheriff that dies or something like that. Probably gets ripped apart limb from limb or something like that. So.
Yeah, it's always something crazy.
But yeah, and there's also a ton of just lesser known movies he was in because that was the scene he worked in was like, yeah, let's make a movie. So he steals a beer with a whip. So
yep, I like that. Whip guys.
Oh, is this? Maybe I wrote it later on. Okay, yeah, I think this is also where we introduced the dick gun, which is famous in this movie, but makes no sense because the revolver chambers aren't connected to the barrel. But whatever, who cares?
How's that dick gonna shoot bullets?
There's a whole trivia in the trivia section about like actually people's complaint was like the recoil and like hurting yourself with it.
Oh yeah, you'd be punching yourself in the balls every time you shot
it. But like you can make padding around that, and also like Tom Savini was a Vietnam vet, and he talked about like basically shooting M16 rifles off of every part of their body and saying it's like, no, you can do it.
Yeah, that's frightening enough. It's like doesn't bother you.
Yeah, as long as you position it so it's not like a impact, but a kind of just a force that's already there.
Just how do you trigger it is the question.
You can reach it. I think they put this in other movies.
Okay. This is the only place I remember.
Oh no, I remember where it is. It's in the suitcase in Desperado.
Oh, okay.
She like picks up and like, what's this? I think so.
Oh yeah, because it looks like a cod piece when it's off. It's like what kind of weird thing? I do remember that.
Which I think I think Desperado's before this movie, so maybe they're thinking ahead, or maybe it's in a different movie that I'm thinking. Oh well, anyways.
The weird fixed gun I remember is the wrist gun from Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Which then returns in a bunch of movies, and then most famously in the second season of Fargo. And everyone wants one of those, but I've seen people try to make them, and it's like this doesn't really work.
Yeah.
It either doesn't deploy, or it's really hard to aim because it's fixed and you can't really adjust your grip.
Yeah, the move. Yeah, aim with like your whole body.
Yeah, it's a point blank range weapon, but it would. I mean, you would definitely get the jump on people.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the best thing ever in El Camino when he's the last part of Breaking Bad was like, we're gonna have a shootout, and he just doesn't even take the gun out of his pocket; he just shoots through his pocket. It's like that's the quickest way to fire it.
Yeah. Which is also great because there's just years of people pretending there's guns in their pockets, and here, oh, there's a gun in your pocket.
Yeah, it works on a lot of different levels.
Let me come back to Seth makes everyone drink at the table. Jacob declines, but here we have like his teenage children drinking whiskey.
Yep.
It's Mexico, so who cares? We're also introduced to Frost, played by Fred Williamson, who's like a legendary B-movie actor. This is all I know him from. I know he was in the B-movie, Italian movie, Inglourious Bastards. That's not related to Inglourious Bastards that Quentin Tarantino made.
Yeah.
Do you know him from anything?
He was in a lot of. I remember. I went down this rabbit hole in cinema about blaxploitation
Yeah.
films, and he is the main character in a lot of blaxploitation films that have titles that would be very inappropriate nowadays.
Okay.
But because it's all a movie with all black
Yeah.
characters, it's like, well, okay, I guess, and it's mainly the white people calling him that. It works. I also know he was in the NFL.
Okay. Yeah.
And he did some. Oh, I think he did some announcing too.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I know him from like blaxploitation because a lot of people confuse him and Richard Roundtree.
Okay.
Because I don't know why. Because to me, they seem
Two
like
tall black
different
guys,
actors.
I guess.
Well, I mean, they're different kinds of actors too.
Yeah.
Like Fred Williamson's more over the top.
I mean,
Richard
I mean, here he's a
was
bit
all-
older, so maybe when he was younger, he looked closer to him. I don't know.
Yeah.
But here he's got like kind of a close crop haircut. He's older, but he's still got a lot of muscle on him. But he kind of looks like a wrestler. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Looks like a pro wrestler, like a later life pro wrestler. And he's playing a Vietnam veteran here. That's his main character thing. What he went through in Nam.
So do you think he's?
Which is funny because Tom Savini's like an actual Vietnam veteran. Like, oh, weird.
So he's got to be a truck driver, right? You don't think he's a biker?
I think he seems more like a truck driver.
What do you think he's hauling to Mexico?
Tequila.
Okay. What, tequila to Mexico or out of Mexico?
Out of Mexico. Okay. You know, the kind with the legendary kind with the parasite in the bottom, or worm in the bottom of it. Yeah.
Here, we come back to the gecko table where he's like still being antagonistic, like he wants to beat up the bouncer that put a hand on him, and then here's where Jacob kind of like yells at him, was like, "Are you such a loser that you don't know when you've won?" Which also Seth gets mad at, and Jacob has no problem repeating to him. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that's a titch.
He's a wise man. He's like, he described it perfectly. It's like, are you this insecure that you can't take the win? It's never enough.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's how like just sometimes there's conflict in movies that seem unjust, but here it's like a character flaw. So I guess whatever.
Yeah,
he's not the guy that rapes and kills people. He just kills people.
Yeah, for money. But
and he doesn't want to kill them. He'd just rather
yeah, he's not doing it to get paid, but it's like, well, you're in the way of me and money, so my 6 little friends that run faster, they're gonna kill you.
Which that style he uses when he talks to the bank tellers.
Yeah,
it's like, don't run. I have 6 friends that are faster than you. Then we have a pause as Razor introduces Santanico Pandemonium, which here it's Salma Hayek. She does a striptease with a dance with a snake, which I guess she was deathly afraid of snakes and got therapy to get through this. But like therapy before she did it. Then also there's Well, see, this is all.
Now, see, I'm not afraid of snakes, but I've known people that had snakes like this. I think they're cool to look at, but they're like, hold it, let me drape it over you. And I'm like, no. Because that is like saying, hey, your only killing mechanism you have, go ahead and activate that right around my neck. It's like, no, I don't get that kind of snake closeness. So I'm with Selma on this one. I don't want that thing wrapped around me. No way.
And the other, supposed trivia about this is that Robert Rodriguez tricked her into it, saying that like Michelle Pfeiffer was going to do the scene. So she's like, all right, well, I guess I have to do it if Michelle's going for the job. So. Which I don't know if that's true. That's like a fun bit of trivia, like all the bitter place that Hollywood is like, oh, they're doing that. Well, then I better go for the job. The other famous one I know of is, Stallone getting the job for Stop or My Mom Will Shoot because Schwarzenegger had tricked him into thinking he was going to do the job.
Nice.
And so then Stallone went for the job and got it.
And that was a big hit, as I remember.
One of the things that almost ended his career. I think. I'm not sure. You have to check. What year did that come out?
I have no idea.
I'm guessing 92. Yep, 92.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, she's a and of course it's Salma Hayek, and she's in a bikini here, so she looks all hot and sexy. um, uh, yeah, at some point she loses the snake, and then she's like dancing in front of Richard, and then she like puts her foot in his mouth and like pours beer down her leg to like feed him beer, and then like pours beer from her mouth into his mouth, a bunch of other stuff. Where he's like, would you feel like this is just again this is what solidifies the Tarantino foot fetish thing?
Yeah.
It's like he must just do this every night then. The crowd cheers the performance. Chet comes in after being beaten up and apparently waiting about 15 minutes to come in and complain about Seth and Richie. And so the Gecko brothers get in a fight with the bouncers and presumably kill them. And they have they shoot a bunch of people in the bar. And they shoot down Chet, who's just laughing. It's like, why is this funny? And they just kill him. And then Jacob notices, like, oh, because Seth stabbed a guy. I think he stabbed Razor with a knife, like a bunch of times. Which his knife kind of looks like the Klingon knife, the Phoenix. I think that's what that knife is called. But
Yeah,
it doesn't have the blades that kick out. It just kind of has that like the center,
that
kind of,
diamond head. Yeah.
in the center that's missing or whatever, or lightning or whatever. So you notice there's green blood on the knife, so that's your first thing. Like, something seems weird here. And then Santanico turns into a monster vampire at the sight of Richard's blood, and then she jumps on him and bites him in the neck, and then he ends up killing Richie. And then the bouncers all come back to life. They're vampires. The strippers turn into vampires, and they just start attacking all the patrons. And then suddenly, like, the band are like demonic, and they're playing body part like versions of instruments. Like,
yeah, this is when this movie just like hits the gas. Because it's like it's supposedly it's vampires, and they do have that kind of life cycle, but these are like every kind of vampire.
yeah.
Like they're not like
all strengths and all weaknesses, just all in one.
Yeah, because the vampires, my two favorite vampire movies are John Carpenter's Vampires and 30 Days of Night.
Yeah.
Like, because when I think of vampires, that's what I imagine. Like, oh, if this was real, it would be something like this, just a monster, like not a. And so this movie kind of combines all those vampires into. It's like they're zombies, they're vampires, they're like they're mindless machines.
Yeah.
But they also have a certain planning ability because they seem human at some point, so they're obviously thinking.
Yeah.
Whereas like the John Carpenter style or the 30 Days of Night, like, yeah, they're kind of thinking, but essentially there's monsters.
Yeah, and they have multiple forms. There's kind of like the more demonic form, and then there's just kind of like the they got teeth form.
Yeah.
And then there's like a full body, like now we change into bat stuff. It's just everything.
They're attacked by an allspice vampire thing.
But also, like, we're introduced to this concept like halfway through the movie, so they're not going to bother to explain anything. They're just hitting the gas here. It's like, oh yeah, now the movie's suddenly something different. Which I can't remember how the advertising campaign went. I'm guessing they must have like revealed that. That's like, oh, that you think it's a bank robbery, heist movie, and then it just ends up being a horror movie. Which is a great concept. Well, actually, probably how there's a lot of horror movies. That's the concept to it, but here it just came off a bit bigger and grandiose, because they did the before stuff better. Because like in the other movies where it's like a thing, it's like the robbery getaway parts usually doesn't have great dialogue, and they're just kind of waiting for the special effects on the monster stuff, and that's kind of where all the money goes. Where here it's like, oh, we got great dialogue and acting and positioning of stuff before we get to all the special effects heavy stuff. Then we have Chet attacks Kate, who like shoves a cross down his throat, and then he just like blows up. So it's like, okay, so crosses are a thing that hurts him. Then we have Frost impales 4 vampires on an upside down table, so that's just fun. Seth fights Santanico, and he keeps like running out of bullets in the scene. And we have Sex Machine, because Sex Machine is killing vampires with a pool cue. Then he ends up in a fight with Razor, and then like kills him he breaks the pool cue to kill him. We come back to Santanico holds Seth down and explains how she's gonna like use him, and he's just kind of like he's pinned down, but he's like casually like reloading his gun, but she doesn't care. Then he shoots the chandelier, and the chandelier falls on her and then kills her. Um,
Yeah, she basically says you're going to be my slave and I'm going to drain the life out of you, and he's like, no thanks, I've already been married
yeah,
once. Or, yeah, he has some line like that.
yeah. The trivia on that is that I guess Robert Rodriguez had cut that line out of the movie, but they put it in the advertising, so he put it back in the movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the scene got cut out of it. There's a lot of like, because I think like Santanico's fighting somebody and she's like screaming, and then like almost like an alien monster comes out of her mouth and bites a guy's head off.
Oh, okay.
There's like a scene where like one of the like kind of like the monstrous version of a stripper, her like stomach opens up and bites a guy's head off, like very like much The Thing. Which there's like a face off at the end of this where there's like 4 vampires versus them, and like the one kind of like weird full makeup vampire is the stomach mouth vampire, but you just kind of don't notice it because it was cut out of that moment's cut out.
Huh.
There's also a bit where like Santanico is like on the ground and she like slithers away. They cut that out. Yeah, there's a lot of little bits they cut out of this. Because I watched like the cut scene, because I heard about it in the trivia, so I watched the cut scene from on YouTube, and it's like 15 minutes of cut scenes that are cut out of this movie or something like that. But
Oh, okay.
which they said they did it all for pace. So, because I think this is like
Yeah.
an hour and 40-minute movie, but I think they probably even want to get it lower than that, because if you're doing a B movie grindhouse movie, you want to keep it quick. So,
Right.
because I mean that's how grindhouse the movie was, because I think they were both like hour and 20 or hour and 30-minute movies, and then you combine together with the interludes, it ends up being like 4 hours. The big bouncer starts just killing people like rather quickly. He just like grabs them by the head and twisting, grab and twist. Now a lot of neck breaking. With the '90s is famous for neck breaking.
Yeah.
And then Frost faces down with him, and he ends up like charges at him, and then Frost kind of like moves to the side, but like rips his heart out. And then the bouncer's still moving around trying to kill people, but then Sex Machine just stabs the heart with a pencil, and then the bouncer just dies. So again, it's just a fun moment. Like there's no logic here because it's like everything's out the window at this moment. So, and then we got a showdown with the last 4 more vampires, and then yeah, they end up killing all of them, and then all the dead vampires just like burn up because like as like I think Sex Machine says like, aren't they supposed to catch on fire now?
Oh, yeah.
Then they go to kill the band, but then the band just like blows up. I don't know what happens there. I don't know if that's like,
That's kind of weird. It was like the band just decided to explode.
yeah, I don't know if that's like they're like ninja smoke, or if it's just like, well, now you're not gonna kill us, we're gonna kill ourselves. So, whatever. Kate and Scott like go to the door to try to open it up, but for some reason the bar on the door, they can't like get it to open. Seth kind of like consoles over Richie's dead body, and then Richie comes alive as a vampire and starts attacking them. Sex Machine's about to kill Richard, but Steph stops and puts a gun to his head, and then Seth just does it himself. He stakes Richard to death in the heart, but puts a pool cue up and then like hammers it in with the butt of his gun. So,
Yeah, and he says something weird like, I hope you find the peace in death you never found in life, or something.
And then Seth goes to the bar to drink some more, which at this point he's had like, I don't know, like 6 shots of whiskey. So I'm like, how out of it should he be, Nathan?
It depends on how much he drinks, but if he was like just in jail or something, I don't know.
Maybe the adrenaline helps overcome the drunkenness too. So
Yeah, I mean, if you're used to drinking a lot and you do drink a lot, it's also hotter than hell where they're at, so that gets it through your system pretty quick too.
they hear a flapping outside, and then like of course Seth comes to conclusions like it's bats, and so so they start barricading the already barricaded door. It's like, okay, we don't want them in there. Then there's like a legless vampire still hanging around. Actually, I guess it's one of the patrons turned into a vampire. It tries to bite Kate, And then the dead truckers and bikers all start coming back to life as vampires. Now they got to fight them. So after they kill that one guy, they all go around and start staking the dead bodies and make sure they don't come back. Kate's having trouble staking a guy till he just comes to life, and then so she's able to get through it. And then Sex Machine looks over, is like kind of gives her a thumbs up, and as he does that, like a vampire bites him. So now he's like, but yeah, like this is kind of like the mixing of stuff where these are basically like the zombie vampires, where a bite will turn you into a vampire. Oh no, I guess that's a thing. And it seems like in older vampire fiction, it's like a kind of a they drink your blood, you drink their blood thing. And then in some fiction, it's just like a bite turns you into a vampire. So I think Dracula, you had to exchange blood, but in like modern stuff, it's kind of like it's almost like a zombie transmitted virus thing.
Oh, okay.
But again, like trying to like apply logic to this movie, that's just throwing everything out here at the last moment. So there's really no reason to. Seth holds a huddle. They're going over like. He's like, okay, everybody agree that we're dealing with vampires? All right, how do we fight them? They're like, yep.
Yeah, there's a great line in here, like, I don't believe in vampires, but I believe in my eyes, and what I saw sure looked like fucking vampires.
Seth talks about Jacob being a preacher has lost faith, which that makes Jacob punch him. And he's like, are you a faithless preacher, or are you a mean motherfucking servant of God? Which Jacob repeats without the swear words because he's like, yeah, I'm not swearing. Then we have Frost is like going through his backstory of being in Vietnam, but we get kind of like sidetracked, like in the like as Sex Machine starts hearing voices and turning into a vampire like one bit at a time. Like he has like one side of his mouth has the sharp teeth turn, and then his hands turn, and it's like it's a fun little bit of moment. And then like then we kind of like. And like the audio kind of fades out as like he's hearing voices, says like kill them. And then we cut back to Frost, and he's like telling his stories like, and I killed all of them. Like, and then we see like the hands like crawl up his back, and then Sex Machine's head pops up and bites Frost. And then Frost and Sex Machine start a fight. Frost throws Sex Machine through the front door, and it opens it up, and so then all the bats come flying in. And then also Frost just immediately turns into a vampire. So this again makes no sense, like how long it takes to turn into a vampire, because we have basically all moments. It's like it can be 1 second or a minute or half an hour. Yeah, again, we're not spending time with that. So Seth and Kate and Scott run into the room in the back. We see Jacob's hiding out underneath the bar. He got bit. I forget who bites him. Oh, Sex Machine bites Frost and Jacob. Okay, yeah. So Jacob's hiding out under the bar. He grabs a bat and a shotgun and makes like a cross with it, because there's like on the pump there's like a little like loop to put your hand in, so that's where he puts the bat to make a cross, and that's also where how he cocks the shotgun.
Yeah, it's pretty cool actually.
So he holds up to make a cross, which like makes the vampires back away from him, and then if any of them get close, he just like puts it down and shoots them, and then like puts it back in cross form and like cocks the shotgun.
Now, before this fight, isn't this where George Clooney says something to the team? He's like, "All right, Ramblers, let's get rambling." Yeah. Is that's a cool line?
Yeah, I mean, that same exact line is in Reservoir Dogs.
Oh, okay.
I said Jacob something Tierney, the older guy in the movie.
Yeah.
Like as they leave the they're having like the breakfast in the morning. And like as they leave, he's like, "All right, Ramblers, let's get rambling." So, which again, I don't know what '50s thing Tarantino took that from, but he loves that line that he's used it twice. So, so Jacob makes his way to the back. So he gets in the back with them. They make plans on how to get out of the bar. So then they look through all the stolen cargo to make weapons out of them. Seth makes a jackhammer steak, which is fun. They get holy water super soakers and condom bombs. And then Kate gets a crossbow. And also we have like Jacob telling him like he's only got like maybe like half an hour before he turns or whatever. So that being the end of Act 2. So we have Act 3. Jacob blesses the water, and then he asks for them to kill them when he turns. But Jacob doesn't believe the doesn't believe the kids when they say yes, and so he threatens to kill himself till he believes them.
Yeah, it's a weird scene to his head. It's like,
yeah, Scott tries to get around it. It's like, no, you're a man of faith. You're not gonna like kill yourself, and then you go to hell. And he's like, I'm already a dead man. Dead men can't kill themselves. um, Seth starts the jackhammer and opens up the door. Jacob takes point with the cross shotgun and moves them out of the tunnel. Then Seth yells, "Kill them all!" Then they all just like split up and start killing independently, which seems like a bad idea. like, um, Seth Sex Machine pops out and like jumps on top of Seth. Seth rips his head off with a whip, and then Sex Machine's body then turns into a rat monster. Like the rat head like pops out of like where the whole neck hole is, and then it tackles Seth. Kate shoots it with an arrow, and then Seth's able to kick it into a fire, and it blows up. Jacob fights Frost and shoves the shotgun through him, and then starts shooting other vampires behind him. And then Frost just like disintegrates eventually. Then Jacob turns into a vampire, and then he goes and bites Scott, but Scott kills Jacob with the condom bomb, and then just blows his head off with a pistol. Then Scott gets ganged up on by vampires, and he's basically getting eaten to death or drained or whatever. And then Kate reluctantly shoots him, and then he just blows up for whatever reason.
Yeah, this whole movie's just gone completely insane.
Yeah. Basically like this last like half hour of the movie's like one big action scene. Kate and Seth are getting surrounded as like the sunlight starts coming in through the holes in the wall. Carlos shows up outside, and they kick down the door and like blow shotgun holes in the wall. And then like the sunlight comes in, and with the help of a disco ball as it distributes sunlight everywhere,
I like the disco ball of death. That's cool. I forgot about that till I watched it this time. I remembered. Oh yeah.
And that blows up all the vampires in the bar. And so we have Carlos, which is Cheech Marin's third character in this movie.
It delivers one of my favorite lines, him and Seth in the movie. Because he comes in and he's like, "What's going on? Were they psychos or something?"
Yeah, I wrote down. Yeah, it said like, he's like, "What were they psychos or something?" He's like, "Do they look like psycho? Is that what they look like? They're vampires. Psychos do not explode when sunlight hits them. I don't give a fuck how crazy they are."
It's the best line in the movie. Like, no one's crazy enough that they explode in the sunlight.
That's also where I find out that Carlos just picked this bar randomly. He didn't know any of the history or behind it or anything like that. So, because Seth is mad that like somehow he did this on purpose, and also his brother's dead. So it's like,
now doesn't he say like one shithole's just same as the other? Or something? Like, I don't know.
And then out of this, like Seth negotiates a slightly better deal, where he says like 15%, and then they shake on 25%, which just seems like negligible, but whatever.
Yeah.
Then Seth gets a car.
Making a win. This guy, I'd like to preach. It's like, can't you know when you won?
Seth gets a car. He's mad it's not brand new. It's like a 1990 Porsche 911 Carrera or something like that.
Yeah.
And he hands off Carlos's cut to him. Seth apologizes to Kate and throws her a stack of cash. Kate doesn't know what to do because now her family's dead and she's a teenager in Mexico. so she asks if she can come along with him, but Seth insists she go home. He's like, you don't. It's like, I know your family's just dead. Just go home. So it's like there's no future with me. So
doesn't she have the RV now?
Because the Dark Knight plays again. Then we see Kate drives off in the RV. Then we get the big pull-out reveal of like all the trucks and biker vehicles are like dropped down on the side of this mountain. But also we see that the bar is the top of like an Aztec temple, which like, just great. It's like, oh man, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's like a great matte painting. It looks really cool.
And the Dark Knight, dun, 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 the credits, which is a great ending to this movie. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a great like what if question. It's like, oh man, like are they gonna make a sequel? And they made 2 straight to VHF sequels, and I didn't hear good things about them. I've never seen them. Have you attempted to watch them? Okay, so
no. I figured it's like, well, it's not going to be another one like this, so it's
Yeah.
like, okay.
I mean, they're produced by Tarantino and Rodriguez, but like they're directed by different people, and I don't know. One had who's Robert Patrick is in.
Robert Patrick,
He's in the
yeah.
second one with Blood Money, which I guess is like, I think the Earl character's still alive in that one, so it's like a slight prequel. And then they have like Hangman's Daughter, which is like goes back even like 100 years, so it's like a Western one.
Oh,
Which, yeah, I don't hear like oh they advanced the narrative. I don't hear anything about that. I just like I hear they're mediocre movies, so I just never attempted to watch them.
and the only thing I watched was a TV series, and like I said, it started disintegrating pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It was cool to start because it actually developed the character of Richie as like, yeah, he's a psycho, but he's not quite as hateful and just full throttle nuts as he is in the TV in the movie here.
Because
But
yeah, more.
yeah, he's not a guy with problems. Yeah,
I mean, did they get to the bar in the first season, or like how long?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
How long? How many episodes does it take to get to supernatural stuff in the show?
Four.
Okay.
But with like this Richie's so crazy that almost seems like a supernatural force to itself. But it's actually his insanity that helps him navigate like some of the vampire
Oh,
stuff
okay.
because he just doesn't interpret reality the same way. So it's been years since I watched it, but I do remember thinking, well, this isn't half bad, but then it just kind of like falls apart.
That's largely like were the Gecko brothers were those white guys, or they had Hispanic actors doing those guys?
I think there were white
Okay,
guys in
all right.
that.
Because I know like the El Rey Network was largely about having Hispanic people and leading roles and stuff like that. So, but I know like in the movies, it's like, oh, the Gecko brothers are white guys. They're the worst white guys.
I mean, these guys could have been Hispanic, but like because there's people I've met people from Mexico that is like as white as me.
Yeah.
It's like it depends who your ancestors are. Because people from Spain don't look like people from Mexico.
Yeah.
It's like they're usually like brown hair, brown eyes. But
Well, that's what I was looking up when I was looking up the Selma Hayek stuff. Like, I guess she's like of Lebanese and Spanish heritage, and then she was just born in Mexico. So,
okay,
which I think
Yeah.
it's like Antonio. I think he's also isn't he Spanish or is he like from Mexico? I can't remember, but I remember there's another kind of weird thing like that. There was like Catherine Zeta-Jones. She's like yeah, she's Spanish, and then yeah, I think something like that. And then
oh yeah, he's from Spain.
Okay.
yeah.
And then what's the lady? Her last name's Cruz, Penelope Cruz. Where's she from? Spain. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of these like they play a lot of Hispanic roles, but they're just Spanish people. So just good old European white people, but whatever.
Well, the most like what I'm talking about when is like Javier Bardem,
Yeah.
like that guy. Depending on his accent, is like, is that guy? Is he Mexican? Is he Spanish? Is he British? What it kind of looks like a combination of things. Whereas people from Mexico that are like, that have a lot of the native ancestry there, it's like, oh yeah, those are definitely people from Mexico.
Well, I mean, yeah, the Spanish came in there and like raped and pillaged until it was basically like a different people. So
yeah, when the Spanish showed up, they were called conquistadors, and they were exactly that too.
But yeah,
and they were savagely conquered.
There's that one Netflix movie that we watched from the Gravity guy and the Children of Men guy. Like that movie was kind of about that, like the kind of like the split between all the heritages of Mexico.
Oh yeah, yeah, because the girl wasn't even speaking Spanish. What was that movie called?
I'll look it up.
Is that called Children of God or
no? But there's another. No, not Gravity Falls, just Gravity. And we'll go from there, and we'll.
Yeah, Alfonso Cuarón,
Yep.
right? That's the guy.
Roma.
Yeah, that was a. You realize like, oh, they have their own uncomfortable like caste system down there because we just see it as one blank thing. It's like, oh, it's Mexico. What's in Mexico? Mexicans. Like they movie, but really it's like, no, it's a whole bunch of different people.
Yeah, and like when we think of Mexico as white people, it's just like, when like everything gets sepia tone in traffic, like that's where our mind goes to. But Mexico has a lot of different topology and different stuff going on there that we don't even think about.
Some wild well, because all these places are settled lands from Europe, where we live, Canada, Mexico, it's South America. It's like those are all settled by Europeans. It's like it's all the same conglomeration of people. We just don't see it because we only distinguish between like the groups that we know exist here, and we simplify that even further. Because it's like, oh, there's white people, black people, and Hispanic people, and Asian people. That's all we see in America. It's like, well, no, there's like different variations and all those groups, but sometimes it's hard to keep track of it all.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump's going to save us from all that. Just kidding, everyone.
But yeah, this is kind of the start of their, let's make grindhouse movies. Which, I don't think they really got back to it till literally Grindhouse and the Sin City movies.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if they've done it since, though.
No.
I mean, there was like the other people that kind of took the Grindhouse stuff and made those 3 movies after it. But like Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez haven't gotten back to it.
No. Well, Quentin Tarantino can only make one more movie.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
He's got to be choosy.
Yeah, he keeps saying that. I don't know, but I also seen articles that said like he's rescinding that order, but whatever,
Yeah, well, he should just keep making movies. I look forward to it every 4 years. It's like I'm going to see a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah, because what's the critic? Which I'm not like. There's so much like info out there about that movie. I'm not even sure if they're shooting it yet. That's how elaborate and like on top of the minds of Hollywood reporters that movie is.
I won't believe anything about it until I'm sitting in a theater watching it, because it's like everything else is just nonsense until it happens.
That's what I did with the Furiosa, because I went and saw that this last weekend, and it's like it's gonna be great. It's George Miller, and so I'm not gonna look up anything about. And I probably should have done. It's a movie I should have done homework for, because I don't think I appreciated it. Just going in expecting like this is gonna be great wall to wall action, rather than it's like, oh, this is gonna be weirdly paced.
Yeah,
and the main character. The adult main character is not going to be in the movie till an hour in. But still fantastic scenes. Just a weirdly paced movie. So
yeah, we were supposed to. We're probably gonna see it eventually. We got busy. Again, our weekends are filled with garage sales and
if you
stuff.
I recommend watching Mad Max Fury Road to as a precursor to kind of like have everything ahead, because like we've talked about before, Mad Max does not care about its own mythology. It just throws it out every movie, and even further as we go. This is like the first 2 movies where like they are directly interconnected. So far it's like, this is so far from the original Mad Max. It's like, it's like Mad Max isn't even a cop anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's never a thing, because it's like they explicitly say that the time in the Mad Max, like, well, in Furiosa, it's 45 years after the world ended. So obviously Max can't have been a cop 45 years ago, and then like see for
it's like 70.
And then somehow be younger than Furiosa and when she's in her 40s. So it's okay. Yeah, it's a new timeline. So, but that's okay.
Yeah, the de-evolution of society in Mad Max, even from Mad Max to the Road Warrior, it's like, man, that was a quick trip to chaos.
I mean, I meant
actually, and then of course, Thunderdome was like, because Thunderdome was like, oh, a nuclear war happened after the Road Warrior. Like, there was no nuclear war. It was just the decay of society from Mad Max to Road Warrior. And then post Road Warrior, it's like, no, there was a nuclear war in here too at some point. It's like, why? just out of just hate, spite. So yeah.
So yeah, we're sitting on probe into space Canada. The supercut of the imperfect collection has Verhoeven Effect. Nathan, what scene from Dusk Till Dawn are we shoving into space?
When they're walking out of the the liquor store / gas station and it explodes. Do the multiple scenes around the car with the music, because that explains the whole movie. It's like it's at some point it just hits the gas and never stops, and it's nuts until it just hits a wall.
Oh yeah, what?
It's also the coolest scene in the movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, it's the one when I think of the movie, it stands out to me.
What did Robert Rodriguez do directly after this? Did he do The Faculty directly after this?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe so.
Which that's a weird movie.
Yeah, that's not like a bad movie, but it's not great.
I guess it's a B movie horror movie, so I guess he kind of stuck with it. But it was also, I think that was done by like a actual studio. I also remember it's like weird that it's like has Jon Stewart in it.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he did The Faculty. And then did the Spy Kids trilogy. And then came back to the Desperado with Once Upon a Time in Mexico, which I remember being hugely disappointed by that movie because I had a lot of expectation. It's like, oh man, giving Robert Rodriguez like $60 million, this is going to be the best action movie ever. And it was just kind of like, well, it's just kind of stylish nonsense.
Yeah, and you had
Johnny Depp.
Yeah, Johnny Depp and Javier Bardem in it. And it's like, this is gonna be. Mickey Rourke was in it too, as I remember. And then it wasn't. It did make its money.
Yeah.
But I was kind of Robert Rodriguez excited me a few times. He was going to redo Escape from New York with John Carpenter producing and writing the script, co-writing the script. That never materialized. But I thought that would have been if John Carpenter was like fully in like that. It's like, well, it's got to be pretty good or really terrible. You never know.
Well, I remember he directed like one of my favorite episodes of The Mandalorian because he did it the one where Boba Fett shows up for the first time, and that that had that whole action sequence where he's using his whole arsenal to fight all those stormtroopers. Even got the knee missiles and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That was a great episode. And then they did the Book of Boba Fett, which I think he produced and directed a bunch of that series, and it wasn't that great. So, but whatever.
Yeah, that was. I remember like being really hopeful, like this is gonna be cool. It's like, well, not really. I did enjoy Sin City also.
Yeah, it was mostly very stylish, but they were great and bleak movies, and the second one's fine. It's whatever. The Machete movies are fun. I don't think I ever saw the second one. Or did they do multiples of those? Yeah, there's Machete and Machete Kills. I don't see anyone after that.
I just always thought Sin City was a good use of Powers Booth.
Yeah.
Who's an actor I always liked because he played like the corrupt senator or something.
Yeah.
It's just an evil man.
Yeah, presumably he's making another Machete movie called Machete Kills in Space. So,
nice, of course.
He's got like several TV series in production. I thought I heard a rumor that they're making a second Alita Battle Angel movie, but it doesn't look like he's attached to it. At least maybe not to direct. Maybe he's producing.
Well, I remember he was attached to making the Gap Cycle into a series of movies.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's been attached to a lot of things, but again, his aversion to union stuff has kept him out of a lot of like big time movies.
Yeah.
So. That's why again, like he created his own studio and just started doing things for himself, and kind of got stuck in there a while. Now he just now he's an older man, so it's like, let's get into TV. It's a bit more reliable.
Yeah, more
Yeah.
steady.
Um, and then yeah, you can find us on Letterboxd. We have username VHE. 1 out of 5 stars. What are we getting from Dusk Till Dawn?
Oh, Dust Till Dawn's easily 5
Okay.
stars. It's a movie I really like. I'm not in love with like a lot of horror stuff, but this one just for the acting and the script alone was really
Yeah.
cool, and it's very memorable. It sticks with you
Yeah.
for a lot of
And for
reasons.
as like dire and violent as it can be, it's a fun movie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're not like it's not off-putting to me. It is crazy, but it's not like so over the top. Like it's not like just a person's hand getting fed into a meat grinder type stuff, which I don't like that
Yeah.
crap. Some people do. I just consider that substitution for good storytelling. But yeah, when you can combine the two things into
It
something
depends how
cool.
you set it up. Like you ever seen oh no, I'm forgetting the name of it. What's the Peter Jackson zombie movie? Dead Alive.
No, I don't think I've ever seen that one.
Oh yeah, it's is it Dead Alive?
Or is it
Yep, it's
I've
Dead
seen it.
Alive. You've
Still
seen the
alive? Okay.
poster, or it's a person like his mouth is being pulled open and there's a skull underneath.
Oh yeah, okay.
There's a famous scene in that movie where a guy straps a lawnmower to his chest and just walks through a wall of zombie and then just like grinds them up. It's hilarious. It's very like Evil Dead. It's along those lines. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
very
Okay.
comic, uh, like violent movie. So um, well, you can find us at verhoeveneffect.com. There we have listener support. You can support a monthly stipend at 99 cents, 49 or 9.99. You can rate our podcast on whatever platform of choice. You can rate us whatever you want. The only thing the algorithm listens to is the highest rating. So remember, give us the highest rating because you control the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't control you. You can find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us at Blue Sky Social at Verhoeven Effect. And you can find us on Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. And you can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory and watch both this and that show live and unedited. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.